Welcome to This Dumb Week, a weekly live Twitter space hosted by Alex Marinos and yours truly, Dr. RollerGator. Available in podcast form on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, and others. Alex, welcome back. Have you had a sufficiently dumb week?
I believe so, yes. How about
Excellent.
you, Gator?
Better than Mexico at the moment, as we have breaking news just before the space began. Apparently, according to CNN, Mexico's most wanted drug leader killed in military operation as violent clashes erupt across the country. Nemesio El Mencho Oseguera Cervantes, the powerful and long-pursued head of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel and one of the world's most wanted traffickers, died following a Mexican military operation Sunday, handing the country a consequential victory as it looks to show tangible results to the Trump administration. Oseguera, a former police officer, led the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, or CJNG, as it became one of the most powerful and ruthless criminal organizations inside Mexico, according to the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency. Violence erupted in several states in Mexico after security forces from several federal branches of Mexico's military carried out the operation in the town of Tapalpa, in the western state of Jalisco. During the operation, CJNG members traded fire with the government forces, resulting in 4 gang members being killed at the scene, Mexico's Secretariat of National Defense said. Oseguera and 2 others were seriously injured and died as they were being transported via aircraft to Mexico City, according to the Secretariat. 3 Mexican military personnel were also injured in the operation and transferred to a hospital in Mexico City for treatment. The Secretariat said that U.S. authorities provided complementary information that supported the operation. The military operation triggered a series of violent events across the state of Jalisco, which is scheduled to host 4 matches of the 2026 World Cup in June, before spreading to other states such as Michoacán and Guanajuato. Suspected members of organized crime groups set buses on fire, blocked roads in the area, and clashed with authorities, Jalisco Governor Pablo Lemus Navarro reported. Video obtained by CNN shows multiple fires burning and plumes of smoke across Puerto Vallarta, a resort U.S. tourist destination on Mexico's west coast. As a result of the violence, Air Canada suspended flights to Puerto Vallarta. During the operation, Lemus urged residents to remain in their homes and said that the public transportation services in Jalisco would be suspended until the situation is under control. Now, floating around the atmosphere on the internet, there are videos supposedly from airport in Puerto Vallarta, of it being sort of under some sort of assault, as well as I've seen reports of a Costco being set ablaze. So currently, my day is going a little bit better than Mexico's.
Oh no, not American companies. If American companies are hurt, you know who's coming in.
Well, Alex, that's the breaking news so far today.
So you said that this guy was one of the world's most wanted traffickers?
That's what the CNN report said here.
No, just
most powerful and ruthless criminal organizations inside Mexico.
No, I'm focusing on the specific wording because the existence of the world's most wanted traffickers implies the existence of the world's least wanted traffickers.
This is true. There is some sort of hierarchy of wantedness.
Yes. And I know which trafficker is wanted the least.
Well, we did catch the snowboarding trafficker. I
was about to ask if this particular man is known to have any hobbies.
I'm not sure if he was a candidate in the Olympics, the Winter Olympics, at any point in time.
Yes. Hey, oh my God. Somebody's gonna do the thing where they go to an LLM and try to create a Winter Olympics / cartel crossover conspiracy. Apparently the the earth is fertile with clues. Anyway, deep lore for you for the dozens of people listening to us all this time.
We're gonna move forward here with some of the additional stupid news of the week.
Before we get there, is any rumors that Iran might be thinking of bombing Mexico?
Not to my knowledge. That is not currently on the table,
right.
To my knowledge.
All right.
But we're going to move on here to some of the other dumb news of the week.
Do you believe in the existence of extraterrestrials?
Logically, I would have to say no. Given the distances needed to travel from the far reaches of space, the energy requirements would exceed a spacecraft's capabilities.
Conventional wisdom. You know this Oregon female. She's the fourth person in her graduating class to die under mysterious circumstances. Now, when convention and science offer us no answers, might we not finally turn to the fantastic as a plausibility?
The girl obviously died of something. If it was natural causes, it's plausible that there was something missed in the post-mortem. If she was murdered, it's plausible there was a sloppy investigation. What I find fantastic is any notion that there are answers beyond the realm of science. The answers are there. You just have to know where to look.
Barack Obama said that aliens are real. Have you seen any evidence of non-human visitors to Earth?
Well, he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that. Yeah.
So aliens are real?
Well, I don't know if they're real or not. I can tell you he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that. Well, he made a big mistake. He took it out of classified information. No, I don't have an opinion on it. I never talk about it. A lot of people do. A lot of people believe it. Do you believe it, Peter?
Well, if the president can declassify anything that he wants to,
well,
so if you want to make an announcement.
I may get him out of trouble by declassifying.
And 1 second while another clip loads.
The president all but confirming what Barack Obama said, that aliens are indeed real. So we followed up with the White House here. We asked them several questions. We wanted to know what part of Barack Obama's comments did the president feel were classified? Was it the part where he says that he believes in aliens, or was it the part that they were not in Area 51? They were also asked if the DOJ was going to look into these comments, perhaps because they were classified. The White House told us there's nothing to add to the president's comments tonight. Brett, all of this comes as the president's daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, told a podcast this week that the president has a speech prepared about extraterrestrial life that he will give at the right time. Listen.
We've kind of asked my father-in-law about this. We all want to know about the UFOs, or we all want to know what's going on. And he played a little coy with us. I have just heard kind of around that, I think he's actually said, I think my father-in-law's actually said it, that there is some speech that he has that I guess at the right time, and I don't know when the right time is, he's going to break out and talk about, and it has to do with maybe some sort of extraterrestrial life.
So we're going to apparently release the ET files, Alex. Are you excited for?
Yay.
Now, do you think any of the alien names are going to be redacted?
Well, it depends where they're from, I guess.
Now, do you think there's going to be any sort of crossover potential between the UFO files and Epstein files? We're going to get any special appearances?
Has anybody checked if Epstein had any interest in aliens?
I haven't perused that particular angle. That's why I'm bringing it to you,
I haven't
sir.
heard anything, which makes me because he really did have an interest in everything. So if he didn't have an interest in that, I think that's quite interesting.
Ooh,
his lack of interest is interesting? Understand what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. I do see what you're saying. So have you had any additional thoughts since?
About may have been fantastical, but it was realistic in some sense. You know what I mean?
Do you have any additional thoughts here as we have a week of Barack Obama going on and going like, yeah, they're real, but
look, this is. I mean, he did apparently after our last session, I saw it flash before my eyes somehow that he kind of said like, look, I just meant by the Fermi calculations that must be somewhere.
Yeah, I just ran the statistical probability calculation and determined that it was likely at least above zero that they exist, right?
Yes, and close to one even.
Close to one. Work. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's pretty good.
By Murphy's Law, apparently.
Okay. All right.
But to me this all sounds so friggin'. I don't know. Let me put it this way: a lot of people have reacted by saying that this is, clearly he's aping the Epstein thing as a way to distract and sort of divide attention, and it resonates. with me. Like he's
but he
somehow
didn't,
overly exceedingly willing.
Didn't really go off much on it though, right? He mentioned that he would
release everything.
Yeah.
He said on the basis of the fact that there's interest.
Yeah.
As if this is the only thing that there is interest in, by the way. We will release everything. Okay, Donnie.
Should he approach the strategy as we will release a very limited select number of things? Is that the strategy he should take by contrast?
No, I think, well, releasing specifically the alien thing is a very limited select number of things. The question is why aliens and not one of the other 100 actually, important things. For example, do you know how many things, how much technology has been sectioned off as sort of national security relevant?
I do not know, but I'm sure it is quite an extensive list of
I'm
things.
pretty interested in that. Do you have a take on what Eric has said several times about this kind of thing?
I have anti-interest in what Eric says. But what I do know, or at least I've heard and need to confirm, to be precise, is that there is how the patent processing workflow works, where you submit a patent and it gets reviewed and whatever. There's you get a provisional patent and there's objections and whatever. Apparently that workflow has a trapdoor where an intelligence agency or I don't know who the appropriate body is can step in and just say, oh, thanks for that. Well, that's national security relevant, and it just fell into a trapdoor, and you can't talk about it anymore. Thanks.
Well, you can't have people inventing things that are dangerous.
Exactly, or not dangerous enough.
But weirdly, at the same time, there are those wacky patents from people at the Navy for warp drives or something, which could just be filling the world with bullshit as a distraction, I guess.
Sure, but I mean, all I'm saying is apparently there's an organized, worked through process by which technologies that are actually useful for national defense, quote unquote, whatever you want to call it, can get sectioned off, and either you go to work with them on it or you can't work on it anymore.
Do you think some of the extraterrestrials trapped in New Mexico have any hard feelings over the fact that their technology was stolen and that they don't get any royalties off the patents?
That is a deep question, Gator. I don't know. Given their view on time, I feel like they understand that the long-term value of the kind of money that the U.S. government uses to pay for royalties is zero. So probably they.
Okay. All right. Well, what do you think the timeline is on this this ET files release?
I frankly don't know. I can imagine them dumping 10 million, 100 million, whatever, some just unfathomable number of files, many of which are crazy people calling in and making reports to the FBI and just letting it rip through the media as much as it can. But also I just see people increasingly being whatever, if an alien spaceship shows up, let me know. Otherwise, shut up and release the rest of the files, the actual Epstein files.
The actual Epstein files. Well, we'll get to some more of that. We'll get to some more of that of the Epstein files. But now I don't know.
Maybe I'm in the wrong bubble, right? I don't know. Do you see anything in your bubble? But in my bubble, I just see complete lack of interest in this sort of attempt to build a counter sort of files excitement from the alien.
I have not actually seen much of an attempt to make it a big deal. The Trump made the announcement and that was about it. I haven't seen much other anything else along the ways of some sort of
the announcement
hype.
Is the attempt. The lack of anything else is the lack of interest in the attempt.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll find out at some point whether or not there is a there, and to the degree to which maybe it's hey, yeah, we did see some signals once that gave us pause, but we weren't able to confirm anything, and that's the extent of the.
I have something to put on the record, which I don't think I've said here before, but I was struck by how when Matt Taibbi was doing his Twitter files investigation.
Mm-hmm.
He then I don't have the timeline down, but I have firm recollection that this is how it went down, roughly, which is he then got sources that appear to be intelligence or like deep state type, and him and Schellenberger came out with two stories. One of them was to do with aliens and disclosure, and I think that was related to that whole like whistleblower guy that was going around the Senate, last cycle, talking about the UFOs, UPOs, whatever.
Yeah.
The other one was about lab leak having happened in China in November 2019, which was kind of funny to me because we knew for a fact that, like, first of all, these were not new. This was not new information that had been circulating for a while, so he could have just asked me. And secondly, there's a lot of information that indicates a much earlier release, including the whole Wuhan games and the September stuff in Wuhan, and other stuff outside of Wuhan. That essentially acts as a sort of a plug, right? If you prove that it leaked in Wuhan in November, and by December it was everywhere, well, that's a story, right? There's nothing to be concerned about earlier. So these both to me look like sponsored storylines, let's call them. And ever since I don't know, I just feel Taibbi hasn't been the same. So yeah, it's fascinating to me that happened, and aliens again were involved as a prominent storyline.
Now, at any point in your life, did you have any sort of like boyish admiration of the idea that there was potentially extraterrestrial life? Were you ever fascinated by the concept? Did you ever like see news stories and that talked about possible discoveries and dream?
This will sound very strange, but there was a time when I was investigating. I wasn't investigating anything. I was reading material given to me. I was like probably like, I don't know, middle school. That had to do with biblical stuff and structures on Mars and stuff like that. But I feel like that must have been the last time.
Did you go down the rabbit hole of cryptozoology too?
Well, I mean, being raised evangelical, you kind of have to, don't you? You mean like the baraminology and all that stuff, or what?
Like a chupacabra or something.
Oh no. So sorry, but baraminology is there's a famous contradiction if you take the Bible story literally, because I think Noah released like a certain number of pairs of animals, and he said these are all the kinds, but obviously we have a lot more kinds. So then some people have taken the word baramin, which is the original Hebrew word, to create like super groups. Got it? You take all the animals on Earth and then you sort of group them such that you superimpose some categories, and then you say, well, these are the ones that were released, and then they kind of speciated or something. No, I don't know what the chupacabra. That sounds very Americana for a little bit.
Interesting. Oh, it's like some mythical creature that goes around and like eats cows or whatever. I don't know. I went down the rabbit hole in middle school too of aliens and abduction stories and crop circles and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
I feel like there were just a lot of pages on the early internet in the early 1990s about that kind of stuff. That
yes,
allowed that to be a thing.
That is going to be one of the things I prepare for a later show. Didn't make it into this episode, but talking about one of the biggest names in that sort of space, named Stanton Friedman, who was a nuclear physicist who basically dedicated the majority of his life to talking about extraterrestrials. So he even released back in the 90s, even like CD collections of evidence and stuff like that you could buy. He was a big UFOologist.
There's a fascinating story to be said about scientists with serious actual pursuits plus wacky shit, where I feel like their patron saint is Newton, where I think
he was into alchemy.
Occupation was, well, it wasn't even alchemy. I think he has like biblical numerology shit and stuff in his portfolio. Just absolutely insane stuff. And, on occasion, invents calculus and modern cosmology.
Do you think you just have to be a
on.
little bit crazy to come up with the real stuff, and along with the ride comes some fake stuff, or no?
You have to be able to amplify weak signals. And, if you do that, there be dragons. I think that's my read on it. I don't know, Gator. Have we satisfied your Twilight Zone content quota, or shall we?
Yeah, because we have some let's say important legal news to get through here too, before we get into our favorite ephemeral topic. But there's some activity in the courts this week, and one of them was very controversial.
Are boneless wings any different than chicken nuggets? Well, a federal judge settled that dispute yesterday in a lawsuit against Buffalo Wild Wings. In a 10-page ruling, yes, 10 pages, the judge said that the chain can continue to call its popular menu item boneless wings, even though they are, quote, essentially chicken nuggets. A Chicago wing lover filed that lawsuit back in 2023, accusing the restaurant of fraud. He argued that the product should be called something different, like chicken poppers.
You really can't make it up right there.
No.
There you go, Alex. So that was one of the biggest items in court. I don't know if you've heard anything else that happened this week in the legal area that shook things up a little bit, but that was one of the biggest there.
Well, I mean, yeah, California is attempting to make to specify which models of 3D printer are going to be allowed.
I have that. I do have that.
Yes.
On the stack.
Didn't we have one about how computers are also going to be illegal? You can't use a computer, so it's got to tell how old you are to run a program or something.
A what?
Yeah, that was some new proposed law in Colorado.
Oh my God!
Well, I don't have this Colorado thing you're mentioning.
Let me try and find it
on the stack, but I do have the 3D printer law in California on the stack for Alex here. Now here's where the meat of the courts come in this week here. Supreme Court struck down Trump's tariffs. Now comes the hard work of issuing refunds. Supreme Court on Friday struck down President Donald Trump's biggest and boldest tariffs, but the justices left a $133 billion question unanswered. What's going to happen to the money the government has already collected in import taxes? Now it's declared unlawful. Companies have been lining up for refunds, but the way forward could prove chaotic. When the smoke clears, trade lawyers say importers are likely to get money back eventually. It's going to be a bumpy ride for a while, said trade lawyer Joyce Addititu, a partner at Vinson and Elkins law firm. The refund process is likely to be hashed out by a mix of U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency, the Specialized Court of International Trade in New York, and other lower courts, according to a note to clients by lawyers at the legal firm Clark Hill. The amount of money is substantial, Addititu said. The courts are going to have a hard time. Importers are going to have a hard time. Still, she said, it's going to be really difficult not to have some sort of refund option, given how decisively the Supreme Court repudiated Trump's tariffs. In a 6-3 opinion on Friday, the court ruled Trump's attempt to use an emergency powers law to enact the levies was not valid. 2 of the 3 justices appointed by Trump joined the majority in striking down the first major piece of his second-term agenda to come before them. At issue are double-digit tariffs Trump imposed on almost every country in the world last year by invoking a 1977 International Emergency Economic Powers Act. The Supreme Court ruled that the law did not give the president authority to tax imports, a power that belongs to Congress. The U.S. Customs Agency has already collected $133 billion in IEEPA tariffs as of mid-December, but consumers hoping for a refund are unlikely to be compensated for the higher prices they pay when companies pass along the cost of tariffs. That's more likely to go to the companies themselves. In a dissenting opinion, Justice Brett Kavanaugh dinged his colleagues for dodging the refund issue. The court says nothing today about whether, and if so how, the government should go about returning the billions of dollars that it has collected from importers. Borrowing a word that Justice Amy Coney Barrett, who sided with the majority, used during the court's November hearing on the case, Kavanaugh warned that the refund process is likely to be a mess. I guess it has to get litigated for the next 2 years, Trump told reporters at a press conference Friday, in which he decried the court's decision and said he was absolutely ashamed of some of the justices who ruled against his tariffs. We'll end up being a court for the next 5 years. The end of the IEPA tariffs could help the economy by easing inflationary pressures. The tariff refunds, like other tax refunds, could stimulate spending and growth, but the impacts are likely to be modest. Most countries still face steep tariffs from the U.S. on specific sectors, and Trump intends to replace the IEPA levies using other options. The refunds that do get issued will take time to roll out, 12 to 18 months, estimates TD Securities. The U.S. Customs Agency does have a process for refunding duties when importers can show there have been some kind of error. The agency might try to build on existing systems to refund Trump's IEPA tariffs, and trade lawyer Dave Townsend, a partner with the law firm Dorsey, said Dave Townsend, a partner with the law firm Dorsey and Whitney. There has been a precedent for courts making arrangements to give companies their money back in trade cases. In the 1990s, the court struck down as unconstitutional a harbor maintenance fee on imports and set up a system for exporters to apply for refunds. But the courts and U.S. Customs have never had to deal with anything like this. Thousands of importers and tens of billions of dollars at once. Quote, just because the process is difficult to administer doesn't mean the government has the right to hold on to fees that were collected unlawfully, said trade lawyer Alexis Early, partner at the law firm Bryan Cave, Lighton, Pasner. Ryan Majerus, a partner at King and Spalding and former U.S. trade official, said it's hard to know how the government will deal with the massive demand for refunds. It might try to streamline the process, perhaps setting up a special website where importers can claim their refunds. But Attitude warns that the government is well positioned to make this as difficult as possible for importers. I can see a world where they push as much responsibility as possible onto the importer, maybe forcing them to go to court to seek the refunds. Many companies, including Costco, Revlon, and canned seafood and chicken producer Bumblebee Foods, filed lawsuits claiming refunds even before the Supreme Court ruled, essentially seeking to be ahead of the line if the tariffs were struck down. There are likely to be more legal battles ahead. Manufacturers might, for example, sue for a share of any refunds given to suppliers that jacked up the price of raw materials to cover the tariffs. We may see years of ongoing litigation in multiple jurisdictions, Early said. So, Alex, the tariffs had their hiccup this week, as apparently most people did predict. The predictions I saw did sort of have this as the outcome, and so therefore the experts were right on their judging of the direction the wind was blowing. Have you had any insight or read anything onto these Trump tariff rulings that you take issue with, Alex, or that you are sympathetic to, or is this a topic that's sort of blown over? Uh-oh. Can everyone
I
hear
can't
me?
hear Alex, but
okay.
What I hear is
so
the
it's just
lawyer's
Alex.
one.
Right.
Oh, hello.
Hello, Alex.
Yes, no, I was saying, you'll be glad to hear that the Trump administration, and especially your least favorite member of it, or one of them, is not far from those experts that were correct on tariffs. So I pushed a tweet to the face, which I can now read. It says, Howard Lutnick's family is set to make billions when the Supreme Court strikes down Trump's tariffs. Cantor Fitzgerald, a financial services firm run by his two sons, who are in their 20s, by the way, has been quietly buying up the rights to tariff refunds for 20 to 30 cents on the dollar since first half of 2025.
Oh, Howie. Oh, Howie.
So, let it not be said that the Trump administration does not have experts on hand.
That is, yes. Now, could anyone have possibly have seen that activity and made their judgments accordingly?
Maybe even had access to inside chatter about how the Supreme Court might rule. Just saying.
30 cents on the dollar. That's a pretty good bet there. That's a pretty good bet.
I mean, hey, you thought they were going to struck down. They acted. And that makes them better than you.
This is true. I often do fail to act on the thoughts that I have. This is why so many things that I've invented in my brain I don't get credit for. Yeah.
Yes.
Well.
Oh, well.
Trump says he will raise global tariffs to 15% after Supreme Court decision. President Trump said on Saturday that he's going to raise his global tariff to 15%, up from 10% he imposed on Friday after Supreme Court struck down a set of sweeping global tariffs. Mr. Trump said in a social media post that he is making the decision based on a thorough, detailed, and complete review of the ridiculous, poorly written, and extraordinarily anti-American decision on tariffs issued yesterday.
Poorly written?
Poorly written. Yeah.
Poorly written.
Poorly written.
He is complaining about the writing level of other people than himself.
He would know what things poorly written would look like.
There were no all caps words. No random capitalizations whatsoever.
And where scot-free was used, Scott wasn't a person.
That's right.
Yeah. Please let this statement serve to represent that I, as President of the United States of America, will be effective immediately, raising the 10% worldwide tariff on countries, many of which have been ripping off the U.S. for decades without retribution until I came along, to the fully allowed and legally tested 15% level, he wrote in the True Social Post. Infuriated by the High Court's ruling, Mr. Trump signed a proclamation on Friday that enabled him to bypass Congress and impose a 10% tax on most imports in the United States. The law allows the president to impose a levy up to 15% for 150 days, although it could face legal challenges. Mr. Trump went on to say that his administration would determine and issue new and legally permissible tariffs, which will continue our extraordinarily successful process of making America great again. Most of the president's previous levies hinged on a law called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which the Supreme Court ruled Friday cannot be used to impose tariffs. Friday's tariffs were issued under a different law, Section 112 of the Trade Act of 1974. That legal provision lets the president impose duties of up to 15% for 150 days to deal with large and serious balance of payment issues. They are scheduled to take effect starting February 24th. Now,
what are large and serious balance of payment issues?
I'm guessing that just means trade deficits. So if for some reason you have decided that you have a unsustainable trade deficit, which isn't really a thing, you could do this.
So can I then like underpay Costco myself because I deem that I have a long running trade deficit against them, since I give them money and they give me no money?
You might be able to pull that off on a Costco that isn't in Mexico on fire, but
I mean, if it's in Mexico on fire, I might even be able to pull it off better.
I don't know.
I mean, if you're getting no money from Costco, you're doing it wrong. Man, give me back 4%.
Ooh.
Okay, you caught me. I don't shop at Costco, but if I did.
Here goes Alex making stuff up again, lying to the audience about his activities.
Yes.
As an executive member plus a Costco credit card holder, you do get 4%. It's a pretty good deal.
There you go.
But that by definition means you're still running a trade deficit.
I do have a very large trade deficit with Costco. Every time I step foot in there, it's $400.
All right. Yeah.
All
so
right.
I don't look. I think I'd said when this whole thing came up that like I can be convinced about the usefulness of tariffs, but the concern is that the execution is going to be a train wreck, and blessed the administration.
Do you feel
they
that
have
has
not
panned out?
Disappointed me in that regard.
Yeah. Do you feel that there has been a bit of a train wreckage with the tariff?
Look, just let's take the last 40 hours of this, right? Where he comes out, he says, "I'm going to impose 10%." The next morning, he literally like just wakes up on the wrong side of the bed and says, "Did I say 10? Sorry, make that 15." Nothing works this way. By the way, including on countries that he's negotiated trade deals with that had
a few weeks ago, do you recall that he was talking about one of the countries in Europe and saying, in his own words, saying that, he was talking to some woman who happened to be prime minister or something, and she rubbed him the wrong way, so he decided that their tariffs were higher.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. Basically, that you can't do that, and what's worse is now he said, well, because the Supreme Court struck down my tariffs on those grounds, I'm going to make them up on new grounds, which sounds to me like the balance of payments was not the issue. I don't know what it sounds like to you.
But I honestly don't know what he's thinking when it comes to these things. He sort of invents it as he goes along, which isn't particularly new, but I'm not familiar with what sort of idea he's running on when it comes to assigning these amounts. And as preposterous as dealing with trade deficits goes, it does not appear to be linked to a numerical calculation of trade deficits in a tariff rate that would be judged based off of what a numerical calculation to balance said trade deficit would be.
Well, that's the problem. And by the way, the other problem with this is, and Mercouris, Alexander Mercouris, who I've linked a number of times from here, highlighted, is that it actually points to another tool that has been positioned in Trump's disposal. Let's call it a Graham's gun, Lindsey Graham's gun to be exact, named according to Chekhov's gun. There's this bill that Graham and Blumenthal from the Democrats have been pushing, which allows or forces, unclear which version is going to pass, the president to set tariffs, punitive tariffs, on countries for trading with Russia.
Okay.
And that's waiting, and I think Trump has been blocking it, but it may provide him the kind of thing that he's missing, which is congressional authorization for tariffs. Basically, the deal that he's being offered is, double down on Ukraine and you'll get your tariffs. Okay. And unfortunately, this alters the calculus for him here.
Well, if he does find a way to weasel the tariffs back in, I'm not sure that it's going to be necessarily to his benefit, because as we've talked, the midterms are coming up. I have expressed that he doesn't seem to have any idea of a winning strategy with when it comes to the midterms in order to make sure that he maintains the balance of power. And some of the polls that are coming out, assuming that they are accurately reflecting the sentiment out there, are aligning with that. And here is one from CNN on tariffs.
About the tariffs. I have rarely seen public opinion turn against something as quickly as they've turned against new tariffs, Trump's tariffs. What are we talking about here? Well, you go back when Trump was reelected back in 2024. Look, the majority of Americans, the slight majority of Americans, favored new tariffs. Look at that, 52%. But look at the switcheroo. The opposition went from 48% in now to 63% of Americans who oppose the new tariffs. The American people have felt the tariffs, and they do not like them.
So when people see prices rise, and we should note that prices have gone up, they always go up. The rate of inflation can go up and down, but prices have gone up. When they see prices go up, how much do they blame the tariffs?
Yeah, they blame it very much so. I mean, this, I think, really gives the game away. Why have they turned against the tariffs? It is because they blame the tariffs for rising prices. Look at this. Say they've already seen prices rise because of Trump's tariffs. Look at that. It was 43% a year ago. Look at where it is now. 67%. Hello. That is an over 20-point rise. No wonder the American people have turned against the tariffs, because they blame them for rising prices. That's an easy political equation to understand. You see rising prices, you blame the tariffs, all of a sudden you become opposed to the tariffs.
And I should, full disclosure, I cheated and I looked ahead here. This is one of my favorite sort of facts that you have referred to a few times over the last few months. How have tariffs played a role in President Trump's popularity?
Okay, just look at the CBS News polling, right? Okay, if you look before Liberation Day, there were zero polls where Trump had a negative net approval rating according to CBS News. But look at all the polls after Liberation Day. All of them have given Trump a negative net approval rating according to CBS News. So there was this clear inflection point. Yes, the numbers might have gone up and down a little bit, but once he dropped into the negatives, once he went underwater, once he was swimming with the fishes, after Liberation Day, he stayed swimming with the fishes, and that is not a place you want to be.
Before, none. After all. Tells you a little bit of a story there. Okay, what do people think? What are some of the predictions about what the Supreme Court might do in terms of tariffs?
So that ends with the Supreme Court question, which already has been answered. But now here's from the Washington Post. 60% disapprove of Trump ahead of State of the Union. Washington Post ABC Ipsos poll finds. As President Donald Trump prepares to address the nation Tuesday evening, Americans remain generally sour about his performance, with majorities disapproving of his handling of priority initiatives, while saying he has overreached the authority of his office, according to a Washington Post ABC News Ipsos poll. The president's approval rating stands at 39% positive and 60% negative, including 47% who say they strongly disapprove. The last time Trump's disapproval touched 60% was shortly after the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. Among registered voters, Trump's approval is 41% and his disapproval is 58%. Dissatisfaction with Trump applies to specific issues as well, with significant majorities saying they disapprove of how he's handling the economy, tariffs, inflation, and relations with other countries. His worst rating is on inflation. 32% disapprove of how he has dealt with the issue. On the question of his handling of the economy overall, 41% approve. But while he still gets low ratings on this, the gap between negative and positive assessments has narrowed from 25 points in October to negative 16 this month. For Democrats, Trump's relatively low standing provides opportunities for the upcoming midterm elections, but the party out of power has made little headway in persuading Americans that they have better ideas or policies to offer and are seen as no more in touch with the concerns of the average person. Asked whether they trust Trump or Democrats in Congress to handle major issues, 33% cite the president, 31% say Democrats, 4% say both equally, and a crucial 31% say neither. Now, Alex, that goes to sort of agree with something you and I have stated several times, which is that if somehow Trump maintains balance in the House and Senate, it won't be because of him. It will be because of the ineptitude of the Democrats to actually capitalize on his unpopularity. So I think we have some support for that idea, at least from the Washington Post and their Ipsos poll.
Yay. I always like being confirmed by the Washington Post. It makes me doubt everything I thought I knew. But I mean, Guido, I've been waiting for the shoe to drop, and you know, it might take considerably longer, but this is the canonical environment under which you have another party emerge.
Another party? Oh, you're thinking a third party can actually emerge here?
Yes, I'm not talking about the carnival. Yeah, like I don't know, some other political force. You know, I mean, yes, first past the post is brutal, but it's happening in Britain, and in Britain, if you probably don't know how the system works there, but it is even more brutal if possible.
They just stand up and shout at each other, right? That's their general do
that, but in order to get into the shouty seats, there was times when Reform UK, that wasn't Reform. His party, Farage's party at the time was like UKIP, I think, United Kingdom Independence Party, where they had gotten, I believe, like something like 10-12% of the national vote and had 0 representatives. Because it's first past the post on every single individual constituency.
Well, I think in the U.S., the situation is much more difficult to have a strong and competitive third party, mostly due to the way that people affiliate their votes and typically go in and have a up and down voting procedure where even the local people they vote for sort of match the federal people that they vote for when it comes to party affiliation. That it's not normally an individualistic setting. So in order to have a national party that's competitive on the presidential stage, you typically have to have a national party that's competitive at every stage across the country for every single sort of seat.
Gator, what do you say? I have a business proposition for you.
Oh, okay.
What do you say we AI mine all the data on like party registration, up, down, left, right, and every conceivable election, and we create an AI agent that will, like, you know, lawyer-proof your party registration in parallel across everywhere.
I would probably quicker recommend that we just create an AI avatar that runs for office somewhere and attempts to win.
You see, you are having fun. I'm trying to make a business.
Oh, okay. This is why I'm probably not the greatest person on the business ideas thing, because I'm one of the people who likes to watch the world burn, I guess. That's not typically the most profitable business proposal. Okay. Well, here's another poll, Alex, that might not make you as happy or gleeful or glad that it shares a sentiment of yours. You might not have this sentiment. In fact, this might be something that supports some of your fears.
Regrets of some folks had a few. What are we talking about here? Well, let's just take a look here. Okay, choice for 2024 presidential election. The actual was Donald Trump winning by about 1.5 points. It rounds to a point. But take a look here. In a polled redo between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris in April of 2025, it was within the margin of error, right? Kamala Harris by a point. But look at where we are now, according to an NBC News SurveyMonkey poll. Kamala Harris wins in a redo, asking folks, essentially, if you could redo the 2024 election, how would you vote? She wins it by, get this, 8 points, a massive shift from what we saw back in November of 2024 when Donald Trump won by a point. And I will note that this sample was weighted to the 2024 result in which Donald Trump won by a point, but yet Kamala Harris in this weighted sample, get this, she wins by 8 amongst the sample that.
So, Alex, as people are deciding whether or not they want to enter their hat into the 2028 race, we might see Cam come back. Are you?
Well, who do you think is pushing these stories?
I'm not sure, Alex. It could be anyone.
It's a coincidence that Kamala made her
Cam herself
re-entry
Cam herself.
into the political scene. Just as these stories started breaking.
Well, she did turn over her Kamala HQ account into a Gen Z account, so that it is now hip with the kids, where they're asking chat, where they're asking chat who was mogged the most in some sort of recent live stream, I think.
Oh God. Well, the what I'm trying to say is that I fully support such polls happening, even though they're meaningless. Because of course, elections are fought by election rules and not at random intervals. They do make it more likely that Kamala will emerge as the Democratic representative, which
that's what I'm saying. Aren't you excited that we might have Kam come back?
It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Okay. You don't think America loves Kamala Harris? You don't think that?
I mean, look. I am as disappointed from Vance as anybody, but what do you think happens in a Vance versus Cam?
I generally think that Kamala would have her floor wiped. I mean, she's not a good debater. She's not a good speaker in any way, and that's not even to say that like Trump is a good speaker by particular measures, but he at least is rhetorically powerful at jousting linguistically a bit. Right?
Sorry, you mean Vance, right?
Well, I'm saying that her deficits at speaking. I am referring to Trump. I'm not getting them confused. I'm saying that Trump is not an example of someone who talks well, where failing to talk well is a hindrance. He is someone who failing to talk well is actually somewhat in his favor because he's still able to linguistically joust. I'm saying that Kamala's version of poor speaking is not of the kind where she's also competent at jousting.
No. It approaches the clinical.
It just falls completely flat. She is basically like a super saturated human resources director in her communication style. And in an attempt to avoid insulting anyone, she avoids most words from the English language. And in any given long paragraph, she is just repeating several words throughout each of the sentences. I mean, that's basically what she does.
Look, she went through the trouble of focus grouping that there is no offense at those specific words in that sequence. What do you want her to do?
I understand that I'm asking a little bit. I am asking a little bit much, to try to find the nice balance between just blurting out on stage, they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, and perhaps saying something that actually has a meaning inside of several sentences. I know that there's a hard line to walk in doing that, but.
So you're implying that a failure to be able to articulate a sentence for fear of being called, a name is perhaps indicating of poor leadership qualities. Is that what you're saying?
I also am not particularly convinced she has any idea what's going on around her at any point in time. Like that's the degree to which the sentences she utters are typically vapid. That
I will never forget her first speech upon being appointed the AI czar. That it will be seared in my memory.
Okay.
As I'm dying. And
is this about the cloud?
Alzheimer's.
And how there's papers in there's papers in the cloud? And the documents are up there?
No, it's about machines who learn.
Okay.
Fine. Let's listen to it again, because why not?
Okay.
I will send it to you. Keep going.
Excellent.
And we can.
Excellent.
Bring
All
it
right.
up.
Well, we have two related stories. They might be related in just coincidence only, and the items that overlap about them are all coincidental, but they seem to be somewhat related. So we have two news stories, one from ABC and one from NBC. ABC News.
Breaking tonight, the tense scene at the U.S. Capitol. A man wearing a tactical vest, police say armed with a shotgun, racing toward the Capitol. Officers then intercepting him, and what authorities say they then found inside his SUV. Here's Jay O'Brien.
Tonight, the alarming scene just steps away from the Capitol. Authorities say around 12:30 p.m., with tourists looking on, an 18-year-old man wearing a tactical vest and wielding a loaded shotgun raced toward the building. Capitol Police immediately drawing their weapons and the man surrendering without firing a shot.
Who knows what could have happened if we wouldn't had officers here standing guard like they do every single day.
And tonight, the investigation.
Police shutting down blocks around the Capitol and searching and towing a car away.
And tonight, police identifying that 18-year-old suspect as Carter Camacho of Smyrna, Georgia. They say he was armed with multiple rounds of ammunition and arrived in a white Mercedes SUV. And inside that car, investigators say they found a Kevlar helmet and a gas mask.
Have you found anything in the car or anything else that indicates the suspect's motive?
That investigation is ongoing.
Does the motive appear to be to hurt the public or members of Congress?
That's ongoing.
And David, tonight, Capitol Police say this kind of harrowing incident is something they trained for, including in an exercise just months ago. And we should note, as far as we know, no lawmakers were inside that building. The Congress is on recess this week, David.
The unnerving scene of the Capitol today. Jay O'Brien, thank you.
At 1:30 this morning, the security detail detected that a individual had made his way into the inner perimeter of Mar-a-Lago. A deputy and two Secret Service agents on the detail went to that area to investigate. They confronted a white male that was carrying a gas can and a shotgun. He was ordered to drop those two pieces of equipment that he had with him, at which time he put down the gas can, raised the shotgun to a shooting position. At that point in time, the deputy and the two Secret Service agents fired their weapons and neutralized the threat. He is deceased at the scene.
Earlier today, two special agents from the Secret Service and a deputy from the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office were involved in an officer-involved shooting while responding to an armed individual at one of the gates at Mar-a-Lago. Preliminary information indicates that the individual was armed with a shotgun and a possession of a gasoline canister. Agents and the deputy discharged their firearms to stop the threat. At this time, no law enforcement personnel were injured during the incident.
So there you go, Alex. Two separate attacks, one on the Capitol building by a person armed with a shotgun and a vest, and someone with a shotgun and a canister of gasoline on Mar-a-Lago property. I don't know if Trump was anywhere near Mar-a-Lago in the last couple days for it to have been a hypothetical assassination attempt, but that's two semi-similar events in a day or so. There you go, Alex.
Meh. You know.
Meh.
I mean, I assume everything was under control. I've sent you two of your favorite women in the world's clips.
Okay.
One is the one you talked about, which I hadn't heard. The other one is the one I talked about, which you might not have.
All right. You sent them through...
sorry, I shared them to the space. I couldn't get them to you for some reason.
Okay. Let me see if I can grab
Curveball.
Well, depending on where they are, it's going to make it difficult for me to get to them to play. That's all.
I have never doubted your technical acumen for a second, Gator.
Okay. Well, if you have any ability to DM them to me on X, that'd be great.
Okay, I am starting to doubt.
No, because I got the sound routed through different browsers here, sir. I have a very complex sound
trust
routing.
Me, I am joking, but I do understand. It gets very, very messy. I know.
We are very
why-
fortunate that the
that's why I've
sounds
been,
I typically intend to play are the sounds that do play.
That's why I've been lobbying for having an AI assistant in this space that can do the routing.
Oh boy, AI controlled.
That's right. Come on, get hyped. Yeah, no, it's look. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the base rate of these things happening is. I assume it exists and it is like not exceedingly rare. So I don't even know if such a thing.
So
is
you think it's just regular
above
churn,
randomness.
regular violent churn?
Well, let's just say I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. Well,
I
can
believe you should have one of the clips in your inbox.
All right.
Any second.
Okay.
And I think the first part of this issue that should be articulated is AI is kind of a fancy thing. First of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence. But ultimately what it is it's about machine learning. And so the machine is taught. And part of the issue here is what information is going into the machine that will then determine, and we can predict then, if we think about what information is going in, what then will be produced in terms of decisions and opinions that may be made through that process.
I've learned a lot in that little clip there, Alex. Thank you. Artificial intelligence.
And can you predict it if you think about it?
I was thinking about it, and I now understand that it's about machines that are learning, and they are being educated, and part of that education is the things that we have taught them.
And look, I can be convinced that she knows just about as much about on the topic as Trump does.
She doesn't know even. Yes, but she doesn't even know enough to be dangerous. That's the thing. Like, there are people who know enough to be dangerous, and she doesn't even know enough to be dangerous.
Herself, no, but she knows she lacks enough knowledge that she will put some dangerous people in there. That's the problem.
Well,
she will not by herself legislate anything stupid, but
if you do not have the second clip involving her explanation of how the cloud works.
I did see it show up, but we can move on. It's fine.
All right.
I think our personal guilty pleasure then rather than anybody's.
If we move on, then you understand what the next subject is going to be here.
Is it the song that never ends?
It is the song, indeed, that never ends. The printers are coming up later when we have more of a technology focused section.
Let's do it.
So we'll begin our discussion here on the song that never ends with a question of how, in general, is the internet handling the post-Epstein files release of the 3 million documents?
So you just found out that the world is run by satanic, cannibalistic pedophiles, and you have no idea what to do. Yeah, well, me neither.
This is the song that doesn't end. Yes, it goes on and on, my friend. Some people started singing it, not knowing what it was, and they'll continue singing it forever just because this is the song that doesn't end. Yes, it goes on and on, my friend. Some people started singing it, not knowing what it was, and they'll continue singing it forever just because this is the song that doesn't end.
Now, we haven't heard from Bernie Sanders in a couple weeks, Alex, and the last time that we heard from St. Bernard, it was involving his discussion of AI advancement and his concern that the oligarchs were going to control all of the AI and take away all of the jobs from everybody, and that we needed to stop the oligarchs from doing this, and that we needed Congress to get involved and have oversight into everything that AI does and basically control AI from inside the U.S. government. Do you recall those discussions?
Unfortunately.
All right. Well, he also has some very salient thoughts on the Epstein files and really gets at the heart of the matter.
There is a growing sense that you have a small number of elite
of very, very rich people who hang out with each other, who really see themselves as above the law. Their world is not my world, it's not your world, it's not ordinary people's worlds. They live in a special world. And I worry that what you're seeing now in our country today is you got oligarchs with incredible money. They also live in a different world. And I think that is why the American people are responding, so strongly. They go through a red light, they get stopped, they get fined. These guys do terrible things. That's okay. You're rich and you're powerful.
There you go. It's the oligarchs, Alex. That's the thing that people are most focused on with the Epstein files. It's the oligarchs and their ability to get away with speeding. That's what's happening. I'm glad that they had St. Bernard on CNN to discuss that. He hit the nail right on the head. So I thank him for that commentary, Alex. Now, we are going to move on to actual meat and potatoes here with our song that never ends, Epstein update. There is an account that is on several platforms, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, going by the name Lauren the Mortician. And this next video, this next clip, has about 2 million views. And at first, you might think that it is perpetuating sort of the salacious ideas that have been going on since Jeffrey Epstein, quote, killed himself in prison. And it might be, you might think, to discard it, at least if you're saying that, this person who's claiming to be a mortician has no credibility, that this is where it's going to die, just on her 200 million view piece here.
Jeffrey Epstein's brother shared autopsy photos of Jeffrey Epstein, including one of his neck area. When I saw it, I paused. I have been on more calls than I can count where someone made the final irreversible decision using this exact method that allegedly Jeffrey Epstein did. And there is one thing that is incredibly common in suspension cases like this. People almost always leave themselves a way to adjust the pressure. They kneel on their knees, they lean forward, they shift their weight into it, and that lean of the person is everything. When someone leans forward, gravity pulls downward on the body and then upward on the material. You following me? The mark doesn't just sit straight across the middle of the neck. It tracks upward, it climbs, and it moves towards the point of suspension. Often you'll see it like angling up behind the ear. What stands out to me is that it doesn't present with that strong upward tracking that I am used to seeing in cases where someone has leaned forward into a suspension point. There even appears to be what looks like a secondary pattern behind it. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it looks that way. Almost like a layered compression. Could there be explanations for that? Sure. Bodies are complex and different materials behave differently. But based on my experience, if someone were positioned the way his brother described, Jeffrey Epstein's buttocks was suspended from the ground when the guards walked in that morning. His feet were out in front of him and he had to be cut down. Again, I would expect to see more upward angulation from the photos, and I just don't see that here. And that's the part that makes me pause the most, because the body doesn't lie. People do.
Now, again, 2 million views on particularly the Facebook account that was sharing this video around, her account. And you might say, okay, well, this is where these types of ideas typically die. It dies in sort of the dark web of internet conspiracy talk, where maybe you have someone with real credentials, whose credentials match what their accounts say, giving you their, quote, expert opinion. But that's still where things go to die, just like after 2019, when Jeffrey Epstein supposedly killed himself. But no, that is not what's happening now. The New Yorker magazine has now also started to dabble into Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself conspiracy theory.
Is there any evidence that you credit that he did not commit suicide in jail?
Well, I don't think he committed suicide.
You're making a supposition. You don't have evidence.
Well, what's evidence? Evidence that the guards lied on their reports. They reported they made checks on him and he didn't. Is it that all the cameras didn't work? They never recovered the so-called noose that, the piece of fabric that he allegedly used. They don't even know which one it was. The fact that if he broke 3 bones in his neck, which is with a lot of force, this man was a very frail man at the end. Even if he was to do that by tying himself to his bunk, every single item on that top bunk was undisturbed. If you're pulling on a bunk with enough force to break 3 bones in your neck, wouldn't you think that the items would have been sort of toppled? I could just go on and on. The reports are very odd. He allegedly tried to commit suicide a couple weeks before this, but when he went in to tell them what had happened, when they found him on the floor, the first thing he said is, "My roommate did it to me. He tried to kill me, and that he had been threatening me for weeks." An ex-cop who was in jail for killing 4 people. That was the cellmate that you picked for Jeffrey Epstein? Too many things don't make any sense. Epstein said he tried to kill him, and then he sort of changed his story and said, "I don't remember." Epstein never said he tried to commit suicide. He only said that he thought that his cellmate had tried to kill him.
So, Alex, now would you say 7 years after the fact is better late than never? Or in coming down to hey, some of these things are askew commentary?
Look, I've been surprised because this does seem to be reviving. Like the particular thing around the situation of his death. There has been the whole video gate with the new sort of a sub clip. I haven't actually followed that thread very closely. I've just seen that there's been some additional frames or whatever discovered that show somebody going into an area that they were not, supposedly, the video proved that they didn't go into. But here you have more video showing that they did go in there. Somebody did go in there. You have this whole story, and the other mortician is somebody I know from the Kirk case. So she's not completely
so
random.
you're familiar with the account. Okay.
Yes. And what was the other part? And then there's the whole other thing about the ear, and that it didn't match, and the profile didn't match, whatever. Look, I generally, if you're around the same circles I am, you see a lot of people saying like, "Oh, this person doesn't look like a younger person themselves. They've been swapped out." Like, I've heard this about everybody, right? I've learned to filter it out, not because like it can't possibly happen, but because it appears to be fairly easy to fabricate or construct, let's say, 2 pieces of photographic evidence that make a person appear like they're not the same person.
Sure.
2 different points in time, 2 different lightings.
Camera lenses make facial features distort in different ways that make you be able to argue that it's not the person's nose or.
Yeah. But here you have all of these things now, right? You have the autopsy, you have the photos, you have the mortician evaluation, and particularly it's that apparently the autopsy was done by one of the more celebrated professionals in the field that his brother brought in, apparently, and he was definitely not in agreement with the main expert that sort of sealed the judgment that it was suicide. So I don't know. And by the way, we are talking about what the corpse that was retrieved, how that corpse died, right? Like, because so there's one case that Epstein was killed because he would talk or whatever, and there's another case where somebody else was substituted in because somebody helped him escape, right? So somebody said, well, this is why conspiracy world converged on Epstein didn't kill himself, because this leaves both windows open, whether he died or not, and that's fair enough. But I'm just saying, like, all of these inconsistencies that we are talking about Sorry, there was another fantastic one that came out with the files somehow that indicated that they put out a body through the main gate while the actual body was going through the back gate to thwart the press. Why would you do that? Like,
now this one is a little loose on me. I might have heard something along those lines, but I didn't get much on it. Do you have anything more specific on that?
I believe the actual keyword I have in my head is thwart. Like, they literally said in the email, we need to thwart the press. So I can keyword it a little bit and give you something if you give me a couple of minutes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. While you do that, if it's not too distracting, I'm going to move on to some of the additional sort of things that are making their way into the mainstream coverage from the Epstein files. So we spent in the last couple.
You want me to read it?
Yep, please.
So I'm sharing it to space. Here, the quote is, in order to thwart the media, redacted used boxes and sheets to create what appeared to be a human body, which was put into the white OCME vehicle, which the press followed, allowing the black vehicle to depart unnoticed with Epstein's body. This is from some of the redacted documents that were released. I mean, what? Why? Why?
So
are you concerned that the vehicle with the body might have an accident? Like, what are we talking about?
This reminds me of the early pandemic era. Well, a little bit after the pandemic was going on. It was when the vaccines were being rolled out. Okay. And they were making a big hype of the vaccines and wanting to do a push to encourage people to get them. And there was, a big sales thing. All the news channels were covering the rollout of the vaccines, doing news stories about the first people getting the vaccines and how happy they were and how excited they were, et cetera, et cetera. And there were one or two stories where the local news would be going and having someone get the vaccine on camera, and the person would pass out, like they just collapse. Okay, and they realized that this was not a good look if they wanted to sort of sell the idea of the vaccines to the populace. They didn't want people on camera passing out after getting injected. So
Yes,
they started to stage vaccine administration events to film fake vaccine administrations in order to use those instead of real people who could possibly faint after getting injected. So this reminds me very much of that stupid idea, because then what happened, of course, on the internet was that people were highlighting certain things that were off about these actually, in the end of the day, staged events, going like, this person wasn't actually even injected. Look, and they're like doing the zoom ins and stuff like that. Very conspiracy minded stuff. And then the teams would admit, yeah, okay, actually the person got their vaccine earlier in the day, and what we did there was all just a show. Like, they would admit it. Okay. They tell you, but the person really got the vaccine earlier in the day. And so what you just read has a very similar sort of beat to it to me. It has a very we're doing this because we don't want some sort of press coverage. We want to control what the press says. We want to control people's reactions to it. So in a sort of best case scenario situation, everything is real. Jeffrey Epstein is dead. He committed suicide, and they are getting, transferring his body. But for some reason, they want to make sure they control how the press is reporting on something. Therefore, they do some sort of play like this for the press to follow. But I don't know if that's the case here. It doesn't have the same logic to me that the fake vaccine administration does.
So, by the way, I've sent you a video on DM and I've also attached to the space that I'd like you to play and watch and describe to people who are listening what you're watching. This is,
okay.
I think I'm the person who surfaced this because I went to the University of North Carolina YouTube channel and I just started scanning.
Oh, so you have one of these videos. You have one of these fake videos. Okay, because this is not one that I was referring to.
No. This is a lot more important than that. Please play it and I will explain. A lot more important than that. It has a lot more backstory.
I'm here to receive the SARS-2 vaccine. Vaccines have saved literally hundreds of millions of lives across the globe. And people were asked to step up to make those events happen for other people across the globe. And as a scientist that works on coronaviruses, I think it's absolutely essential that I step up and volunteer for this event. And I hope that other scientists and other political figures and other noteworthy media individuals also step up and take these vaccines to help build confidence that this is the best approach that we can pursue to save lives across the globe.
So let me make sure I didn't miss that. But on screen, as he's describing what he was going to be doing, he's sitting in a regular doctor's office chair. So he's in a patient room, and they are swabbing his shoulder with alcohol to get him ready for the injection. But they never give him the injection, and they just pull his shirt down.
Yes, if fast forwards. Right now, here are some pieces of information that will blow your mind, okay?
Okay.
If it's not first of all, this is Ralph Barrick, okay?
Yeah.
One of the chief inventors of the vaccine, involved with the, potentially create like a collaborator of CJNG that either, whether it leaked here or there, he was somewhere in the pipeline. He's also one of the inventors of remdesivir. He's also one of the runner of the stage 1 trial, or he was deeply involved anyway with the stage 1 Moderna trial. There's material of him transferring IP to Moderna in late 2019 about a coronavirus vaccine. Just like he is everywhere, okay, in the pandemic. What is this video? This video is him filming his participation in the stage 3 trial of the vaccine. He does not know himself if he's getting a placebo or a vaccine. And he's right there endorsing it, not knowing what he's getting and whether it's going to work, or effectively whether it's a vaccine or not.
Okay. I see. Because I didn't see them actually inject him, so I just saw them swab him and then
on
and
the
then pull down
channel is before the vaccine is approved. It's September of 2020, not December. So technically, I'm not even sure if they are allowed to have put up promotional material for an unapproved vaccine. It's just I can't. And then they have other videos in that same channel with participants in the trial. I repeat, participants in the trial saying that they want to do everything to make sure the vaccine gets approved as fast as possible. I don't.
Well, I would say not going down a COVID rabbit hole during our Epstein segment, right? But yes. My advice to everyone who is dealing with sensitive things is to, if you want to make sure that people take you seriously and not come up with ideas that everything is a fake and that everything is a sham and just a production and a play meant for people's entertainment to scare them into compliance, you might not want to have completely fictitious events where you stage things.
Or perhaps evidence of your bias caught on video, like contemporaneously. Just saying, maybe, I don't know. Who knows? Trust the science. Anyway, let's go.
All right, so
just put this all together. I'm just saying, like, I don't know how many we went through, 5 or 6 different independent sort of lines of evidence about something fishy going on with that particular event cluster there with his death. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. I'm sorry. Like, it's a lot. I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah. And there, I do not enjoy the people who online like to argue via heuristics, meaning that they're always taking the most stringent ones to try to seem right. more erudite and intellectual than everyone else. So they'll just invoke Hanlon's razor.
Does not meet the legal standard, right?
Hanlon's razor, right? Well, no, Hanlon's razor is the one where it's like, never attribute to malice what you can attribute to incompetence. And so it's like, okay, so the guards fell asleep. The guards lied on the paper saying they didn't fall asleep and that they checked on him when they never checked on him. 2 of the cameras failed that were directly on there. And like the hard drive was wiped. Like all of these sequences of events that should not occur. You go like, oh, well, Hanlon's razor. You're never supposed to attribute malice to that which you can attribute to incompetence. And it's like, wait, what do you mean never? What do you mean never?
Hanlon's razor to incompetence.
And that's where I say that, eventually we're going to wind up, just slitting our wrists with Hanlon's razors because that's all we could do.
But then we won't know if you killed yourself or not. Anyway.
So yeah, it was a shaving accident. It was incompetent shaving. So I'm going to here play a little bit longer of a segment from a channel called Law and Crime, which is actually one of the more legitimate sort of media news channels that covers, legal things of interest throughout the country. I mean, this is you might consider it slightly on the line of TMZ, where it does do a lot of salacious coverage, but it's not a phony account run by nobodies. It's not an Alex Jones type account. It is a legitimate, legal channel that covers, important trials and things like that.
What you're saying.
Yeah, they're not completely free of being accused of some salaciousness, but they're not only dramatic salaciousness, right? They interview actual law enforcement personnel, actual, attorneys and things like that. And these are the things that are recently bubbling up as becoming important to that segment. And so the reason I'm sharing this is because these are the things that have caught my attention and in the last week are catching the attention of channels like Law and Crime, who are a little bit more on the serious side of these developments.
The Epstein files have been revealing a lot, but this time we want to get into some really disturbing alleged secrets of toxic plants that could take away someone's free will, the harrowing diary entries about babies being taken away, and a major update on the potential search of dead bodies on an Epstein property. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. If you've been following us here on Sidebar and our continued coverage of the Epstein files, you know there is no shortage of bizarre and creepy and strange and suggestive and just disgusting communications and content. But right now, there are three things that popped up that are so weird, so disturbing. I just wanted to dedicate a full episode to this, okay? An allegation that Epstein was interested in acquiring toxic plants that could take away someone's free will? What? For the guy who was accused of orchestrating a sex trafficking of minors operation, that's something we got to talk about. Diary entries, or what appear to be diary entries of an alleged young victim, they are horrifying. They may add more fuel to this idea of Epstein having secret babies. We have an update on that and an update on something that we did just a few days ago, an update on the claim, the allegation that there are dead bodies on Jeffrey Epstein's former New Mexico property, the Zorro Ranch, or around the Zorro Ranch. Got to talk about that. So I want to start with the plants, okay? So there are a series of communications about this. The first that I want to bring up is from Jeffrey Epstein. It's an email from Jeffrey Epstein to an Ann Rodriguez, okay? It's dated March 3rd, 2014. And he asks, "Ask Chris about my trumpet plants at nursery?" And the response later on is "will do." So one way to look at this is, was he referring to Angel's trumpet plants? I looked into it. So these are ornamental plants in the nightshade family. You see them in warmer climates, but you can grow them in greenhouses. And they're usually safe, but if you eat them, they could be toxic. One of the compounds in that plant, the reason we're talking about it, is something called scopolamine, okay? This can have a serious effect on the nervous system and can even cause hallucinations. According to TMZ, scopolamine can cause memory loss. It can interfere with someone's free will. And there's something else about this. Scopolamine reportedly doesn't show up on toxicology reports either. To be a little bit more exact, our understanding is it doesn't show up on standard tests, maybe can be detected in targeted tests, but obviously you can see why this is a concern. And with that in mind, I gotta turn to another email. It's dated January 27th, 2015, and this person is forwarding Jeffrey Epstein a Daily Mail article about scopolamine. In fact, it says forward, scopolamine, powerful drug growing in the forests of Colombia that eliminates free will. In the article, I'm going to quote it directly. It says, so again, why was this forwarded to Jeffrey Epstein? Why was this highlighted? The most dangerous drug in the world, devil's breath, chemical from Colombia, can block free will, wipe memory, and even kill. Scopolamine, often blown into faces of victims or added to drinks. Within minutes, victims are like zombies, coherent but with no free will. Some victims report emptying bank accounts to robbers or helping them pillage own house. Drug is made from borrachero tree, which is common in Colombia. And I want to call out this section too from the article. It says, Dementia Black, a drug dealer in the capital of Bogota, said the drug is frightening for the simplicity in which it can be administered. He told Vice that scopolamine can be blown in the face of a passerby on the street, and within minutes that person is under the drug's effect. Scopolamine is odorless and tasteless. Quote, you can guide them wherever you want. It's like they're a child. So this arguably shows that Epstein was aware of and maybe even was interested in the effects of this plant. And that brings me to another document that I got to call out, because it's one thing for Epstein to be interested in, maybe wanting to grow it, but what about using it and potentially using it for nefarious purposes? And remember, there have been allegations against Epstein that were very similar to what I'm talking about right now. You know, there was a FBI crisis intake memo that was in the files, and it was dated October 8th, 2019. And it says that at 8:40 p.m., Redacted called the FBI National Threat Operations Center to report being an Epstein victim. Redacted provided the following information. Redacted was raped by Epstein in 1984 when she was 14 years of age. Redacted stated Epstein drugged her at Redacted in Redacted. Prior to being raped, Redacted came in and out of consciousness and stated Epstein's face was painted like a clown. All right, before we jump
Alex,
into
a long time ago, we were during previous, Epstein information, not in the last dump or anything like that. It was, I believe, just after the promise of releasing Epstein files by Trump, where it was not whenever the law was signed. It was prior to that. There was one of the alleged victims doing sort of a media tour at the time. And the clip that we had from her involved her talking about Jeffrey Epstein turning into a lizard. And this was like, I didn't necessarily mock her in the sense that I was like, this is a crazy person, but that, if there was any truth to her claims of being victimized, that there was possibly drugs involved, that she was drugged to some way. Now, if this plant was something that he was procuring and did indeed have hallucinogenic properties like that, and this woman was a victim, it could explain the visualizations that she doesn't understand that she saw, like him turning into a lizard. That's it's very strange that all of these things have to be somehow made coherent, because it's a very terrible and an extensive set of circumstances, Alex, and particularly when you can't prove that one way or another just by listening to them whether a person was a true victim or not. Are you with me, Alex? I see that you went unmute, but I do not hear you. So if you have a second mute button somewhere.
Yes, there we go. The curse of multiple mute buttons. So I was saying, yes, you make an excellent point. And I think this is actually a piece of evidence that is a weak form of a stronger pattern, where if we see a victim talking about something that is then revealed to have been true, but you would not have known it but for having been where you said you were when you said you were, or something along those lines, having information that corroborates some of your claims, let's say. So I believe there is and forgive me, Lord, for going there. I really wish I could avoid it, but whatever. His penis shape apparently does not match what was on the body with what his numerous sexual partners, consensual and not have attested it was. So
on his deceased body, you mean?
On his deceased body, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that's Well, now I okay. Let's hope that by the end of all of the Epstein stories, like a couple of years from now, I have successfully avoided having to inspect photographs of Epstein's penis. Please afford me the luxury of never having to do this to try to know.
No. Well, there is an interesting piece of contradiction I've picked up in things I've heard. I haven't dug into figuring out which is which, but some people said he was cremated. Others say that he was buried, but his burial location is a secret. So it would be interesting to figure out which one it is, because one of these is more likely to spare you than the other. Let's just say.
Well, in Transformers, we threw Megatron's body into the ocean and he came back. So if that's what we did with Epstein, we might have a revival of him. I base everything.
A mixture of him and Bin Laden, you think?
Yeah, I base everything I know on Michael Bay movies. So that's how I navigate navigate events. But there's more actually. So this is again, I'm not saying that just because law and crime is taking this seriously that it means that everything is true. But these are the items that I have been seeing float up and sort of distill into, let's say, more solid, believable avenues of ideas. Okay, so going down the avenues of what was code for what, like pizza or coconuts or jerky, all of those avenues do not currently have much in the way of resolving themselves. They're going to, for now, perpetually stay under the idea category of, hey, pizza might be a euphemism for, jerky might be a euphemism for. All of these things are not going to have a conclusive payoff at any point in time, even if there is truth to the ideas.
Kobe connection?
The what?
Did we go into the Kobe connection for the code words?
The Kobe Bryant connection?
Yes.
I saw one mention of that. We have not gone into it. I saw one mention of something involving jerky, I think, with Kobe Bryant, and I saw someone reply, Kobe, no. Oh, okay.
So it is a very early, an old...
Or was it the grape soda? Was it grape soda?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Pepperoni pizza and grape soda. So he had said somewhere that he is like full of pepperoni pizza and grape soda, and his childlike metabolism is going to energize him for the game next day or whatever.
Oh gosh.
And also there is a mention somewhere in the press, and I'm assuming these two came close by. I haven't double checked that. But some people are like, well, there you go. It's a Kobe reference. And I think people need to stop and think what they're talking about. Okay. Because first of all, Kobe had some accusations on his name. I'm not sure if he had convictions for something. Okay. A. B. Let's say that it was, nothing to do that Kobe did. He just brought the two things together to the public eye. Okay. So how does this work where it becomes embedded into multiple emails of Jeffrey Epstein? I can imagine how it is. It's like, oh, did you hear Kobe? Yeah, he's having grape soda and pepperoni pizza, right? Oh yeah, I bet you. Yeah. And then you start aligning things with those two objects and they become code. So the fact that you have a cause for those two things being referred with what meaning they got assigned when they were used later, these things are not in conflict. This is how it works. It's like saying, in Cockney rhyming slang, there's apples and pears is so you say apples for stairs because apples and pears and stairs rhymes, whatever. Point being, if I say that's Cockney rhyming slang, I'm not actually explaining anything. Yes, it is. That is where the linking came from. But what does it mean? There's an additional layer you have to get to.
Sure. Anyway. Well, in China, that kind of linguistic modification is very common to get around internet censors, where because in Chinese you have a tonal dialect where it's basically the same pronunciation with different emphasis on different syllables changes the actual meaning of the word.
Right.
You then have people hot swapping those types of words in order to, have euphemisms basically, when they're typing in order to get around internet censors. So it's like those types of things happen as a natural evolution of language. Paul Ramirez, I will get to you in a moment there, sir. They have natural sort of evolutions, and people's internal lingo may have an origination point like you're mentioning, but doesn't mean that the meaning stays intact. It can that which it is referencing can be modified to suit an internal.
You have to somehow figure out. Okay, let's say you found the Kobe reference. Why are they making random Kobe references? That does not answer anything, right? It's like it's anti-curiosity where you found the same things ish, by the way, because the pepperoni thing does not show up in Epstein's thing. It's just, I think it's pizza or cheese pizza, and they sort of cut it off to make it work. They say like, well, he said pizza and grape soda. Yes, but he said pepperoni pizza and grape soda. If you want to be accurate here, but whatever. Okay, so let's say you found a source. Okay, but what was the source referred? Like, why were they doing that? Why were they making random Kobe references? Like that actually sort of concedes the case that this was code, but not answer the meaning question.
Well, is it? I'm assuming that you're getting this sort of response from the Michael Tracy era of you idiots. This is how, obviously not as diabolical as you think, just because, and that's somewhat along the same angle as the Hanlon's razor types, the people who decide that you must have, in order to be permitted to think that something is untoward is going on, you must have in possession some sort of concrete evidence as to like a criminal standard in a court of law in order to be allowed, afforded permission to think something. Right? Like you're not allowed to hold or maintain the idea unless you have the concrete, physical evidence. And so the idea that they could not be euphemisms, just rejecting that outright, is a completely different sort of conclusion than saying I'm not yet convinced that they are code words for something. Like that's the Michael Tracy types taking the hard route of unless and until you have the concrete evidence, you're not permitted to think that they mean anything untoward, is a very strange position from where I.
So I recently came by a tranche of Michael Tracy tweets around 2019. I have found others, by the way. These are not unique, that I would like to read. Here's one.
Okay. All right.
October 10th, 2019. Alex Acosta reportedly told Trump transition official that Epstein, quote, belonged to intelligence, quote. And that's why he struck his original non-prosecution deal in 2017. Must be another conspiracy theory, ... Another one, the same day. The popular media definition of conspiracy theories, quote unquote, is incoherent. They've spent 3 years pushing a debunked Trump-Russia conspiracy, but will now try to denigrate anyone who suggests a sinister explanation for the suspicious sudden death of Epstein as a crazy conspiracist. Another one the same day. How was Epstein not on the most intensive suicide watch protocol available? ? So, yeah. You're not allowed,
and for those,
but he was.
For those not familiar, Michael Tracy is an independent journalist, so to speak, has a Substack, has a sizable following, and he has become somewhat known on the internet and affiliated, internet news services as being a contrarian. So whatever the main narrative is that's running through the regular mainstream media, he is typically going to take something that is counter to that as his position. I'm not accusing him of doing it reflexively, but that is how he tends to be. So in many places that aligns with where my perspective and knowledge comes from on certain events. So we've done a lot of stories here about the old RussiaGate claims. There's a special episode we have published here called James Comey, Professional Son of a Bitch, where I go over the initial RussiaGate oncoming, where Mike Flynn was being interviewed by the FBI and James Comey was still working for the FBI at the time, and go through all of his memos and things like that. And Michael Tracy would have been one who was anti-Russiagate, talking about how there was no there, and how the Mueller investigation was going to, yield nothing and things like that. So he is typically a contrarian. And in this case, I guess, Alex, you're demonstrating, at least to some degree, he flipped his contrarianness, because at the time it was contrarian to say that there was something, smelly in the Epstein situation, and now it's too popular of a take.
Exactly, and while we might not be able to say what is going on with him, he may have genuinely changed his mind, for example. We can say that when he attacks everybody for taking the positions that he took merely 7 years ago, well, if they weren't brain dead then, I don't know. I mean, I guess you could rescue it by saying with what we knew then, it was reasonable, but now it's unreasonable, whatever. Okay. But there's also the other case where, yes, he took that position then for whatever reason. Maybe he just thought it was reasonable. And now he just attacks everybody who has that position because he thinks it's unthinkable, But I look, I got to say something, and it's uncomfortable, but in the spirit of sort of trying to understand, I've been trying to figure out what the fuck is going on with Tracy, honestly, because it's just bizarre, right? And it's not like he's putting any case together. I've tweeted out multiple examples where he's just committing basic logical errors, just absolute slaughter of laws of evidence and argumentation, just operating effectively as a defense attorney, not as a truth seeker. But I have found something that has given me a lot of pause, and I even did an experiment to sort of figure out if my understanding was correct, and unfortunately it does appear to be correct, which is that I cannot find a single high-profile case in which a high-profile rape case which Michael Tracy has not taken the other side of. I've got here tweets on the Tara Reid case, on the Cuomo case, on the Bill Cosby case, on the what else? On the Harvey Weinstein case, on the what else do we have here? Yeah, and yeah, right. These are all the ones that I've looked for. But the Cosby one, I just did okay, I wonder if he said anything about the Cosby case. And yes, he has. He says it was a miscarriage of justice, whatever, right? It is reliable. And again, that doesn't say anything, right? Actually, this one I can make sense of. Maybe he believes that there is a sort of a moral panic industry that is, motivated by rape claims, which, what, I'm not saying I believe it. I'm saying it has a logic to it. But unfortunately, that is the pattern I'm seeing this click onto. Sorry for ruining your evening, Gator, but
that's all right. No problem.
Them's the facts.
Well, Paul Ramirez has been patiently waiting, so I want to give him an opportunity here to make his comment, questions, or invite the discussion that he has.
Just real quick, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Ralph Barrick, he invented the no-see method. He taught to CJNG, and I'm basing this off the books I read by RFK Jr., and I'm using ChatGPT right now to summarize it.
It's correct. Yes, I confirm. He invented the no-see technique, which is
So you want to say what that was how he was able to genetically insert the furin cleavage site, I believe, in a way that and that's what the bat lady. But that's how he was able to.
Well, what's important about the no-see technique is that it doesn't leave a trace behind that you did the editing.
Exactly. That's why they can have that's why they can have a paper like Natural Origins by or whatever paper that was. But because you can't disprove it, and that's their evidence. You can't anyways, I enjoy hearing everything you're saying. I just want to throw that in there.
Yep. Yeah. No, I've got a thread that people can look up where I say that Ralph Barrick is the Ray Epps of the pandemic, and I list out all the things that he's had a hand in, and it is ridiculous. Okay, you can't have your name somewhere in the origin of the virus, everything to do with coronaviruses, anything to do with everything to do with coronavirus engineering, mentored everybody in the space, and then also molnupiravir, and remdesivir and the vaccine. It's like, come on, man! Like,
similarly, like if you think
do we have
like
5 scientists in the world right now? Think you only have one virologist? What the fuck is going on?
Well, it's also similar to like Anthony Fauci. It's like, oh, your HIV studies with AZT. Like you're pushing these products in the 80s.
Yep. No, it's. I mean, and the reason I call him the Ray Epps of the pandemic, by the way, is that he is not being pushed. Like he's not. He did go on the stand finally, but and even so, even though he said contradictory things, nobody followed up. He has been, while Fauci was taking all the arrows, Barrick was sort of in the background, allowed to pretend to be neutral and just scientific about stuff, which is wild. Anyway. Yes, it is. It is the whole Barrick thing. One day, Gator will go through it, and I don't understand. I like how one person has just his fingerprints in every single piece of technology that was brought to bear during the pandemic. Oh, sorry.
And before I go,
I'm sorry. I have to mention this now that you mentioned. Sorry, keep going. I'll find it actually, and I'll read the quote.
But before I go, I have to mention the implications is that okay, fine. Ralph Barrick has been doing research, and the NIH or NIAID or whoever was sponsoring like the Peter Daszak's research through the Echo Health Alliance. And like, at the end of the day, it's like, oh yeah, we're working with the CCP. Like, that's actually the bigger conversation. Okay, fine, we're manipulating viruses, we're whatever, like, we're doing whatever, but like, oh wait, our NGOs are directly working with CCP. Like, are they not supposed to be our competitors? Like, why is it American companies are cooperating with the CCP? And I'm going to turn my mic off. I'm done.
Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't found the manuscript I was reading, but it's by Barrick, and it's about biowarfare, and he specifically mentions planting a virus in a different country where you have plausible deniability about its release. Like I can't,
Sounds like a helpful manual to have on hand if you ever needed plausible deniability about a virus that you placed in a foreign country.
You didn't, of course. We can't.
Right.
Allegedly.
But if you had such a manual, it would be handy to have.
Yes.
So now I'm going to continue down our Epstein track here. With the law and crime here is not necessarily to say that the items are all true. It's that these are the ones that are sort of percolating up as becoming the most believable / part of the zeitgeist about what Epstein might have legitimately been up to as released by these Epstein files. And so therefore you're sort of given social permission to believe these things in some way is why I find them extremely important. Plus, I also think that they're very plausible.
To be clear, I couldn't find anything definitive in the documents that he had used this plant, that he had used scopolamine to drug women or girls in any fashion and then sexually assault them. There's nothing blatant that I've seen to suggest that. However, I have to call this out because what we found here is very weird. It brings me to this document. February 2022, it is described as a victim impact statement that was sent to the United States Attorney in South Florida, Tony Gonzalez. And it's apparently from a Joseph Manzaro discussing an incident in December 2014 where he was drugged. Now, if anybody's been following us here on Sidebar for a while now, as I was listening to this and I was reading, I was like, why does that name sound so familiar? And I realized we covered this guy. Joseph Manzaro, we don't know exactly who he is, but he is somebody we've talked about before. This person, apparently out of Florida, Joseph Manzaro, filed a lawsuit in Florida federal court. He claimed that he was a victim of sex trafficking and sexual exploitation at the hands of Sean Diddy Combs and others. We talked about him. We covered this, his lawsuit, where through a victim impact statement, it's very similar to what I'm about to go through, It says that it was about 5:30 p.m. on December 26, 2014, when I arrived home. I unlocked my door, and when I turned the handle on my door, I got something all over my hand that resembled Vaseline. I said to myself, ew, that's disgusting. I rubbed my fingers together in my hands as I went in to wash my hands to see what the heck this stuff was. The next thing I remember was waking up in the backseat of a car and being driven somewhere. It was Eric Mejias driving and Bonnie Rivera in the passenger seat. I said, hey guys, what's going on? Where are we going? What am I doing here? Why are we driving anywhere? I'm supposed to be at home right now. Then I said, oh wow, I'm really sleepy. I need to just put my head back a bit. The next thing I remember was waking up again and hearing Bonnie Rivera telling Eric Mejias that I was waking up. He said, he's waking up because what should I do? Eric Mejias then told him not to worry, just give it a minute. He'll fall back asleep again. I gave him a lot of that scopolamine. He must have given me a blot because I'm practically immune to that stuff. As a child, I had to take it quite a bit to go deep sea fishing with my dad on the weekends, which I loved. I just hated being seasick and developed quite a large tolerance to scopolamine. I thought that to myself, though. So this is very confusing because there's no direct mention in this to Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not sure why it's in the files. But how could I not mention it when it's another direct reference to scopolamine? Again, seeming Epstein had some sort of interest in the trumpet plant that had this. So what do we make of it? Not entirely sure, but it's eerie to say the least and something to think about. Now, second part, I want to talk about a diary, what appear to be diary entries. In the files, there appear to be these diary entries from what seemed to be a young girl. And in the passages, there is descriptions of abuse, trauma, pain. And while we talk so much about Epstein and the money and the alleged co-conspirators, if these allegations are true and what's being described, I just want to read you some samplings from this. And it centers around this person being pregnant and giving birth. These detailed, disturbing, alleged accounts of childbirth with Ghislaine Maxwell being right there. So as much as we talk about Epstein and all that, sometimes we don't talk enough about what these accusers, what these alleged victims went through. So let me read you from these, again, what appear to be diary entries. Close your eyes, close your eyes, close your eyes. Don't speak, she doesn't talk. I can't stop shaking and it's been a week. A decision was made, but I can't tell Jeffrey. These things happen. Why didn't I close my eyes fast enough? The doctor was different again, I think from Israel. He had kind eyes, but didn't speak directly to me. This was different. A shot, and those rod-like things had a hook and so much pain. Ghislaine said to push all the pain away. I don't understand. Blood and water all over the bed, and she was right. Like a feeling when your tummy hurts and you have to push. She said to close my eyes and put her hands over my eyes, but I didn't close them because of these tiny cries. I am so lost. I saw between her fingers this tiny head and body in the doctor's hands. It reached its tiny arm up and had a tiny foot. I closed my eyes and no more cries. And when you go to page 20 of this particular packet, chillingly, there is even a picture of a sonogram on a page with the words, "She is gone and she won't be coming back." And next to what appears to be a poem entitled Child, you have passages such as, "Your clear eye is the one absolutely beautiful thing. I want to fill it with color and ducks." Now, we don't know for sure who this person is. We don't know if this claim is real. We don't know if this sonogram is the baby the person mentions. And also, we can't confirm whether any charges or investigations were launched because of this specific account or accounts. But it seems the allegation is clear, right? That she was impregnated, and as I'll get into, either by Jeffrey Epstein or maybe she was a surrogate of some kind, but the baby was taken away. And what is interesting when we talk about her credibility, at least to me, is the apparent specificity of detail and acknowledging certain personal details about Epstein. Like, for example, there's this passage. After so many bonding moments with Jeffrey, Ghislaine, their baby inside me, with me in the middle, she wouldn't even look at me. We said nothing to one another, and I was so confused. When we arrived at Palm Beach, I was taken to a house close to Jeffrey's, I think called Ocean Boulevard or Street. But it was close, and I was alone except for a new driver, not Mr. Wan. So, That is seemingly in reference to Juan Alessi, who managed Epstein's Palm Beach estate, testified in Ghislaine Maxwell's criminal trial, by the way. So how would she reference Juan unless she, again, did have a connection to him of some sort? But before I go further into the diary, I do have to say this. We have heard about this before, the secret Jeffrey Epstein children or child. There were communications from Sarah Ferguson, formerly Prince Andrew's ex-wife, to Jeffrey Epstein like this. Don't know if you're still on this BBM, but heard from the Duke that you've had a baby boy. Even though you never kept in touch, I still am here with love, friendship, and congratulations on your baby boy, Sarah XX. How about this one? You've disappeared. I did not even know you were having a baby. If it was so crystal clear to me that you were only friends with me to get to Andrew, and that really hurt me deeply, more than you will know. Now look, we don't know if this is true, but if that was the case, this boy would be around 15 years old today. You couple that with a diary entry here from someone, the handwriting is kind of difficult to decipher, but she writes about feeling like a human incubator, says that Epstein talked about creating a superior gene pool. I want to go back to the diary that we're talking about. Page 19. My heart belonged to her. She was so very beautiful. She was perfect. I can't bring myself to write what happened. I am beyond broken. I only got 10 to 15 minutes to hold and feed her before they took her. She is mine. I want her back. Distraught. Tomorrow is the halfway ultrasound for Jeffrey. This one stuck. After they took the first baby who survived in the early miscarriage, I think it was called, I no longer feel like a person but a vessel. Will they take this one too? Who has the first one? Where did Ghislaine go? She is never around. I can't let myself get attached. I'm not old or mature enough or even the place to have a baby that I would be responsible for. I am not even able to focus on anything other than hiding this again. I had to go to eating disorder treatment prior to being in their situation again and missed the entire fall semester of school. I am so very exhausted. My body feels so tired. Will I ever be free? There's this one. I am such a monster. I didn't console her. I can't unhear her screams. They haunt me. I couldn't even bring myself to look at her. I am a monster. I deserve to be haunted by her screams. I am so sorry. I am so broken. This one. So sorry, Jeffrey. These things happen when your body had never been given time to properly heal. So it came out in the toilet, and I didn't know what to do, so I just flushed the tiny little fetus. You have made me numb, and I hate you for this. I hope I never have to see you again. I am not your personal incubator. Where is the baby? Where is Ghislaine? So that's in reference to what I mentioned before. And look, when you look through these pages, it is almost like a scrapbook of pictures and words that arguably paint a disturbing picture of abuse and trauma. Like this one. Our finance department deals with all the paperwork. Unfortunately, the finance department is also, and then written next to it, family. Who knew? Who knew? I was born a slave. There's a picture of a baby in a diaper with the words, I couldn't stay under the same roof. Your life will never be the same. In big, what appear to be stamped out words, maybe from articles, it says, heart is gone, inhuman profit. There's one that says, I love you so much, but it crosses out the you and puts her instead. Steals the baby, brought her such joy. You have a picture of a courtroom that says, you should never be here alone. There's a collection of words, protect the vanishing children through a child's eyes. I won't let pain keep me from surviving. And I have to mention this too. There is a call out to another Epstein associate, Jean-Luc Brunel, French model scout, died in his jail cell while being investigated out in Europe for sex crimes. This is the passage. Jean-Luc Brunel is a disgusting pig with bad breath, and I'm almost positive does these disgusting things because he's struggling with maybe being gay. 6 weeks wasn't even given before being sent back. Punishment for trying to run. Why can no one help me? Ghislaine is gone. I am so lost and my heart is broken. Is this my destiny? I don't know what to make of it other than, it's part of this collection. It's part of these files. It's important to mention. And if the allegations are true, it kind of gives you an insight into what was going on.
Well, unfortunately, it looks like our co-host, Alex Marinos, has dropped off for a moment. Hopefully he will be returning. We had, maybe he's having some technical difficulties for a moment and had to reboot something. But as soon as we get him back, I'll get him back on stage. Now, after all that, I'm sort of extremely curious to figure out how sloppy Steve Bannon was planning on doing some sort of image rehabilitation documentary about Epstein, because it's very, very difficult to hear that and imagine that even if Jeffrey Epstein were still alive and a public figure, that the stink of this sort of idea could be, wiped off of him. Or, also, what did sloppy Steve Bannon actually know, even like plausibly, about these types of items? Because last week or a week before, I read an article from the New York Times on here that was from 2019 that specified that Mr. Epstein himself was telling all of these, scientists that he was courting in academia that this was basically his plan. He bought the ranch in New Mexico in order to have a large number of women bear his children. Now, of course, when you're hearing something like that, you could, I guess, start to say, well, it's probably all, all on the up and up, meaning that, there's people who have multiple wives, so he's just courting multiple women in order to bear his children. And that's, excessive, but still within the bounds of normal human behavior, I guess, or moral human behavior. But when you tie that into the items that we have here coming out, which is, these supposed diaries of women who were calling themselves incubators, you sort of have a way of piecing together that perhaps, as I articulated, I believe last week, what we used to know about his massages and the process that he had, where Ghislaine would recruit women who were in poor straits, in dire straits. Maybe they came from a broken home, did not have a pleasant family life, that they would recruit these women and offer them money in exchange for giving these massages. And that this was sort of like the first layer of recruitment where, similar to, like, let's say a multi-level marketing scheme, as you would indoctrinate the women to getting used to doing these massages that gradually got more sexual, they would perhaps do DNA tests to see, because again, Mr. Epstein was fascinated with DNA, according to the academics that he was constantly trying to court, that he wanted to seed his DNA and create a master race of offspring. That involved in this massage process was possibly some DNA testing to see which of these women, who were already sort of under his control to some degree, at least from a financial standpoint, were candidates for this next level of introduction to his plan. I'm not saying that I know that this is exactly what was happening, but everything that I've been reading that seems to be fairly solid and legitimate seems to point in that direction. Alex, I don't know at what point you lost touch or dropped off, but
I now believe that my audio is protecting me from hearing things that I shouldn't hear that will disturb my sleep.
All right. Well, you probably heard enough of that story.
I heard enough, yes.
Seems to be a increasingly believed thread in common acceptance, is that there were women that were sort of used either as forced surrogates or impregnated themselves at his New Mexico ranch at a minimum as one of the locations.
Well, the thing is, if they were surrogates, forced or otherwise, rather some appear to be forced, but there could be other surrogates that were not forced. But if he was involved in surrogacy one way or another, that does open the question of surrogates for what, right? Because so far, I mean, it could be his and Maxwell's baby, right? That would be the most normie thing you could imagine, given the circumstances. But also you could, he does appear to be, for his lack of intelligence, he does appear to be highly agentic. Let me put it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Very imaginative as to the stupid shit he got into. So, yeah.
Mighty Canoe requested to speak. Go ahead, Mighty Canoe.
I just wanted to add the story that you just shared about the diary. I've heard from other sources that girl was 16 years old and Down syndrome, but didn't have the features typically associated with Down syndrome, and in fact was quite beautiful. Her skin was described as porcelain, like a doll, and she was also autistic. So she was super, super special to Epstein to study.
I hadn't come across those. Whereabouts did you come across that additional set of information?
Oh, the world, Gator. Like,
well, hey, I spend a decent amount of time in the world, and
I'll try to find sources and send them to you. I mean, yeah, take it for what you will. I just found it super interesting when I heard it. She was apparently remarkable. I mean, her diaries are really remarkable. I have no idea what happened to her, but that the passage that was read that said something about payments, and then in the margin it said family. Apparently, her family was well aware of where she was and what she was doing, and apparently she had a couple of babies. So that's all. It's such a fun story. It's just the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it?
Well, if you zoom forward,
chasing down actually, because it's also fucking grim, really. But putting that aside for a second, if he was trying to accomplish something in term like specific, which again he did seem to be very goal driven, to say the least. There might be something to that kind of a genotype that might have enabled him. And back a couple years ago, we couldn't ask the question of, what kind of crazy genetic experiments does it allow you to, if you have a person with that kind of a genotype. But now we can. So that might be an interesting little crazy thread to chase down.
All right. Keep up the good work, fellas. Talk to you later.
Thank you. So the last little bit of Epstein news this week, Alex, is that it appears New Mexico is taking a lot of these developments seriously and is launching attempting to launch a full investigation onto the Zorro Ranch. And even to the point where they are going to investigate the rumor that there are at least 2 buried bodies on the property or the adjacent property, because he also had some sort of lease agreement with an adjacent space. I don't know if you've heard of the New Mexico.
Let me read you the relevant Michael Tracy.
Okay. All right.
Tweet says, incredibly, the New Mexico legislature has just established a modern, quote, truth and reconciliation, quote, type commission to investigate alleged child sex crimes at Epstein's former Zorro Ranch, as though rampant pedo trafficking and rape must have taken place there, which has yet gone uninvestigated. The only known concrete allegations of sexual abuse at Zorro Ranch are as follows. And then he just, adjective-rich descriptions.
There is Epstein himself saying, you know what I want to use my New Mexico ranch for? It's to turn it into a human incubation farm.
Well, but that's an allegation, you said.
By himself.
He just said he wanted. There's no proof that it's been done. So why are you investigating it as if it happened, man?
I don't know. There's days where he has a point or two that really matter, and then other days where I go, what are you just grasping at as many straws as you possibly can to try to see if you can turn them into spaghetti and then throw them in a wall?
But it is ridiculous because it's like, well, there's no evidence. Why are they investigating? It's like you answered.
That's how you get evidence.
Question, you fucking moron.
That's how you get evidence.
I know that a frequent Bannon contributor buying the ranch of Epstein is completely, not curiosity triggering for you. But
I apologize. I lied. There's this next piece of Epstein news is less salacious. It's not going to hurt your heartstrings or anything like that. But it is something that is, like I say, a minor thread in the Epstein story that we've been following. And this is from the Free Beacon. Dem Rep Stacey Plaskett visited Epstein at office he used to scam Virgin Islands government out of hundreds of millions of dollars, records show. U.S. Virgin Islands delegate Stacey Plaskett visited Jeffrey Epstein at the Virgin Islands office that served as the base for a network of shell companies the sex offender used to defraud the Virgin Islands government out of hundreds of millions of dollars, according to emails and court filings reviewed by the Washington Free Beacon. Plaskett visited Epstein at the St. Thomas office of Southern Trust Company in August 2014, January 2019, and again May 2019, just 2 months before Epstein was charged with trafficking dozens of underage girls for sex. According to Virgin Islands prosecutors, Epstein's Southern Trust and its deliberately complex network of subsidiaries defrauded the Virgin Islands government out of millions of dollars in tax breaks through a program operated by the territory's Economic Development Authority. Plaskett herself worked for the agency until 2012. Those revelations and others could renew scrutiny of Plaskett as she reportedly eyes a run for Virgin Islands governor. Plaskett has for years faced scrutiny over the ties to Epstein, who killed himself in jail in August 2019. The Congresswoman visited Epstein at his home in New York City in September 2018 to solicit donations to the Democratic Party. She sent a text message to Epstein later the same day, referring to him as her friend, the Free Beacon reported. That contradicts Plaskett's claim in November that she had never had a friendship with Epstein. Plaskett's visits to Epstein's office, which is located 2 miles away from his private island, Little St. James, also highlighted her largely unnoticed relationship with Erica Kellerhals, a longtime Epstein attorney who had handled business and legal affairs for many of Epstein's fraudulent companies. Kellerhals arranged and attached the August 2014 meeting and organized the May 2019 meetings, emails show. The 2014 meeting was initially planned for Epstein's residence, but had switched to STC, the acronym for Southern Trust Company. The company's sole office was just a 10-minute helicopter ride from Epstein's private island. Kellerhals spearheaded many of Epstein's companies that the government now says were part of his scheme. In 2012, she testified in support of Southern Trust's application for the incentive program, describing Southern Trust as a biomedical and financial informatics firm. So there you go, Alex. Miss Plaskett's, he was just a constituent who happened to have my cell phone number. That story does not seem to be holding up as strongly as she would like in recent revelations.
What? You mean he wasn't a constituent, or that he didn't have her phone number? I don't know what you're accusing him of.
It is the just part. It is the just part in the sentence.
The just part. Yeah. Well, we don't do just in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Look, man. If one person is gonna go down, that woman should go down. She is just absolutely awful. Everything I've seen of her, even before her connections to Epstein, is just. I mean. She like if they don't put her in prison, at least she needs to be starring in the next episode of The Wire. Like, she's just so crooked.
I have some additional bad news for you.
Dramatically crooked. Go
Alex.
ahead. Go ahead. Keep going.
The Wire the show is over. They are not making any new episodes of The Wire.
Well,
the entire series has concluded.
They said that about Star Wars, and look where we are now. So don't tell me what to not to hope.
All right. So that does conclude our Epstein block for today, which of course every day is a long assortment of information on there, because that's the song that never ends. So Alex, would you like to move on to tech related stories, and hopefully we can get in some traces of AI dystopia involved?
I don't know if like is the word I would use, but let's do it.
All right. So, Alex, you're familiar with the fact that, there have been RAM competitions jacking up RAM prices, putting RAM sort of out of reach of the average consumer, or at least claiming
RAM
to put
consumer, yes.
Average RAM consumer. Well, Western Digital is already sold out of hard drives for all of 2026. Chief says long-term agreements for 2027 and 2028 already in place. This is from Tom's Hardware. Western Digital Chief Executive Officer Irving Tan said the company has already sold out of hard drives for 2026. Tan confirmed this during the company's Q2 2026 earnings call, where, according to the transcript shared by investing.com, He also confirmed that there are already some long-term agreements in place for the next couple of years. Quote, as we highlighted, we're pretty much sold out for calendar 2026. We have firm POs with our top 7 customers, the executive said. We've also established LTAs for 2 of them for calendar 2027 and 1 of them for calendar 2028. Obviously, these LTAs have a combination of volume, of exabytes, and price. This announcement is on track with the report from late last year that the hard drives are on back order for 2 years due to massive data center demand. The company's VP for Investor Relations, Ambrish Srivastava, said that 89% of the revenue came from its cloud business, while its customer business only delivered 5%. Because of this, it would make sense for the company to focus on enterprise clients, similar to how memory chip makers decided to focus production on the more lucrative HBMs that are in demand for hyperscalers. The cost efficiency of hard drives has especially become more apparent now that SSDs are skyrocketing to more than 16 times the price of the equivalent HDD. Alex.
Oh, I see what's going on. Yeah.
What?
So this is a domino thing, right? Where because of the whole like RAM costs and whatever, and like in general, like chip. Let me put it this way: RAM costs go through the roof. So probably flash memory lines are probably being rededicated towards random access memory (RAM), right? Which means that we now have back orders on solid state drives, which then drive demand on more traditional drives, I guess.
Yes.
Which is fascinating because like I had not thought about this before, but it's kind of obvious in retrospect that with AI sort of bringing these massive pools of capital sloshing around wanting to do big things, you are going to see pandemic-like supply chain disruptions where I don't know if I guess most people don't know this, but for example, I don't know if it's regularized since, but the Raspberry Pi was completely knocked out of its ability to keep stock of its devices during the pandemic. And a big part of it, and I remember because we were manufacturing a board at the time at Balena, a big part of it was that it wasn't like the main part of the board that was on back order. It was some small microcontroller on the board that GE had kind of like run out of, like the lines for some the older stuff apparently had been spun down, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh no, we're back in demand now or whatever, and they were like, well, we don't have any of said chip that you need to get your cards out the door, and they're like, I'll pay you 20 times X, just give me whatever you have. And it's like, I guess we're gonna stiff the pie, people. So you get stuff like that, and I think to this day you can't really get reliable supply of Raspberry Pis. Maybe they've fixed it by now. I'm not entirely sure. It might be model dependent. I don't want to say over speak on that, but the point is, there is a fundamental incompatibility between a very dynamic market and a supply chain that likes stability, right? It's just, they just are begging to be to sort of cause drama, and the adjustment mechanism that the market has is what you're seeing, right? Which is that when one category of goods is depleted, you both get reallocation of production capacity from other things and reallocation of demand to other things, right? Which then tends to both again deplete other things, and but less deplete, I suppose. There's like other people make other plans, whatever. Whoever can like not buy the thing will not buy the thing, but whoever needs to buy the thing will probably spend a lot more on adjacent things. While the manufacturers are scrambling to make more of the thing and the other things. Sorry. I don't know if anybody's making sense of anything I'm saying. It's just fascinating to me. And in retrospect, it's obvious that we are going to see a lot of production stories like this.
Yeah. Now, I hope there's going to be some reprieve in sight, because there are certain trends in the technology world that we've sort of made issue about, at least passively in the past, which is the increasing reliance on subscription services for all of your computing needs, as opposed to actually owning your own items outright.
Yep.
right? One of the stories that we talked about in the last few months was something like Bose, the audio company, having a speaker system that was largely cloud dependent, and them retiring the cloud services, or majority of the cloud services that the physical product that you bought relied on. Therefore, discontinuing basically the physical product that you purchased because they discontinued the cloud services that it relied on.
It's not so much discontinuing as it is rescinding your purchase, because you can't use the thing you already bought. Yeah,
exactly. Now, there have been statements from like Jeff Bezos talking about his idea for modern computing to be basically cloud-based, where you will have a dumb terminal that is leasing its compute from the cloud. So I'm hoping that there is a reprieve at some point, because should there be an accumulation of such technology only on the cloud side, that we could unfortunately see a market that is potentially suckered into subscribing to cloud only computing services, even for desktops. And I don't want that world, man.
What this sounds like is that local computing will be a luxury.
Yeah.
Right. That you know, the plebs are sort of all, you know, clustered into the servers, and then the elites have access to, you know, on demand local computing. And by the way, that's not just for the AIs themselves, right? So recently I've been sketching out like how to accelerate my own workflow, and the first bottleneck I found is that the terminal in Windows is a mess, and I needed to rewrite a large part of it, which apparently is not a problem for AIs. So I rewrote the terminal stack into a Rust-based GPU accelerator. Whatever. But then you're like, okay, well, I've got all my like super fast terminals here. Like I can run more, you know, like Claude Code instances, but my laptop can't take it, right? So my next thing was like, all right, well, can I like, you know, buy an old school, you know, or even new school, whatever, like big local processing thing that doesn't need to be portable, right? That I can have here, even if it does use LLMs in the cloud, right? There's just some local, you know, some sort of I don't know, stuff like, you know, scientific computing or whatever, that is not just the AI you need to run. The AI itself writes scripts that themselves need to run. And yes, you could put that in a VM in the cloud, but it's a mess, whatever. You'd like to have some capacity locally, right? And so I started sketching out like what that would look like, and, you know, making it look nice and integrated with the terminal and whatever. But the point is, like, you know, while they're talking about like, yeah, put everything in the cloud, I'm thinking, you know, how much can I get in my house?
Well, exactly, and the more that becomes out of reach for the average person, particularly when there's already going to be a skill set divide, it makes it that much more difficult to protect against things that we also talk about regularly, which is of the Fourth Amendment protections, because the more and more stuff that is technically yours that is hosted in a third-party service means the government just has to issue a subpoena to those third-party services, and your Fourth Amendment protections be damned.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what they never really acknowledge, right? And I've been in this space for a very long time, given that even during my PhD, we're doing a lot with distributed computing and, you know, not data center sort of networking and stuff like that. And, you know, you always see these waves of technology sort of centralizing and decentralizing. But what I've always noticed with people who say like, oh, just use the cloud, you know, is that they never acknowledge the fact that what belongs to them does not belong to you. For example, Mr. Bezos, would he like to tell us what happened to Parler, that had a contract with Amazon, and then I believe due to instigation by AOC, at least as far as we could see, after January 6th, Amazon just told Parler to scram effectively, and they're like, "What about our contract? It has like a 30-day, you know, notice included," and they're like, "Sue us. We're just gonna cut off your servers. Deal with it." Right. So they just friggin' turned them off right as their app was exploding. So basically, they killed the entire company. Okay, So tell us again why we should be putting everything in the cloud again. So, like,
right.
Oh, of course you can always build your own social network, right? You're not. Well, unless of course we turn you off. Right. Gotcha. So we can't have a serious civilization like that. I'm sorry. It's the same shit like international law or whatever, where everybody's just like, of course, yeah, but there's contracts. You could always take us to court, whatever. And it's like, yeah, but in practice, you'd be dead. So not only doesn't matter, but you probably won't even be able to afford the lawyers.
Yeah,
so.
that resolution doesn't scale.
No.
Now, Ahmad Mahmoud, you requested to speak. You've been very patient. Go ahead and make your comments or ask your questions.
Yes, if it's okay. Very quickly, I just want to say, anytime we talk about with the conversation with Mighty Canoe,
Paul Ramirez, there was a different speaker, Ahmad Mahmoud, who was being patient. Then we'll get to you. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess he didn't hear you before. So, yeah, well, I mean, once I, inshallah, will do buy my house, like, possibly next year, maybe in the next 2 years. I mean, I was really thinking about, changing my name because, well, I mean, I don't know. I just wanted to something that's neutral, or maybe a Spanish name, or something like that. So I was wondering. So what is this space about? So it's just about technology, programs, or AI. Is that it?
Well, the space that you have joined is called This Dumb Week, where we basically do a smorgasbord of the news that we have considered to be a representation of the insanity that is increasingly creeping into the world as we modernize / regress. So there's technology sections often, but there's not technology specific or focused. Is there something that we did discuss that interested you, or?
Yeah, I guess everything, most of what you said interested me, but I could tell you some crazy stuff, crazy news that I have been hearing, like, the previous past week, was that there's more than a 90% chance that, Donald Trump is going to do something illegal again and do another illegal war without, approval from Congress. It's a 90% chance that he's going to, bomb Iran, and it's going to be longer than what happened last year, which was only 12 days. That's what the reports were saying. And the other crazy news that I heard is that one of the drug cartel leaders in Mexico was killed by forces.
Yep, that was the first story that we covered at the beginning of the show. That started at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So we did cover the new the Mexico situation a little bit. Thank you for reminding everyone at the end of that's currently going on. But do you have anything that you want to add to what we've currently been discussing about technology involving the prices skyrocketing for hard drives or SSDs, or cloud computing increasingly becoming the standard?
Well, I guess I would wonder, what's the main driving forces for the increase in prices? Is it because the North American land, we don't have that much resources and the materials to make those?
The generic answer is going to be it's the drive for the increasing AI components. So the centers that require all of the computational costs in order to be able to create and house the AI infrastructures that we are currently in the boom process on. Those are getting all of the purchase orders for all of the equipment that is making the consumer prices increase.
And it's also due to the fact that we also don't have a big manufacturing hub for the processing and refining and the construction or the building of all those electronical components and hardware. Yeah,
that is part of the part of the domestic policy that Trump is trying to push forward with, partially through his tariff policy, and the government acquisition of, what is it, Alex? 10% of NVIDIA, 10% of NVIDIA purchased.
What? Oh, I missed that.
This is a very reckless way to do it. I guess a better strategy is I would say, how about you increase, because many big companies and especially billionaires and corporations, if they want to continue offshoring jobs, I guess what we could do is that the federal government, they could increase taxes on the wealthy, and then use that money to basically create government-owned manufacturing hubs and houses to do to make good paying manufacturing jobs and actually build the stuff back home.
That's typically not going to be the policy that Alex or I are going to promote. We don't necessarily align with that strategy. But thank you.
But I would say like we can have that and also maintain a private market at the same time. Like I guess like it'd be better if the government if they also engage in the economy instead of just along with the private market.
They are the economy, man. What are you talking about? They take all the money out of the economy. They've never manufactured anything of value that does well in the market, minus their own.
Hey, remember that one time they made Velcro
without forcing you to buy it, basically? So I don't know why we think that they would be.
Remember that one time they invented Velcro, Alex?
Remember the government cheese? Remember that?
Yeah,
that was pretty good.
Yeah, Paul Ramirez, you have been so patient, and I apologize for confusing you a couple moments
just
ago.
one more thing. What was that? What was that item that you talked about that the American government made president, not Alexander? So, like, I already heard American cheese. What was the other thing?
Velcro. The U.S. government takes credit for creating Velcro. The lore goes that they needed the ability to give astronauts in space something that was able to help them, maintain grip on things so that things weren't just floating everywhere. So that Velcro was invented by NASA in order to give astronauts it.
I'm actually waiting for a very future super advanced technology in which what it could do is that it's like a powerful vacuum that could extract all the fossil fuel emissions that are like.
Paul Ramirez has been waiting very kindly.
Yeah, no, just a few seconds.
No. I think you've
all right.
Gator, thank you so much. And by the way, I have to mention, anytime I hear Mighty Canoe, I'm reminded of the Evergreen episode, Once Upon a Time in 2019, I believe, or maybe 18, the Evergreen with Brett Weinstein and Heather Haying, when they had to go through the canoe session. Anyways, that was a shout out to Mighty Canoe. My question for you guys is, Alex, what's your next project? So I remember in the past you wanted to do an AI software that would search in the background like citations, it would behind the scenes in parallel. If you open a web browser, it will search the citations and kind of score it or whatever.
Yep.
Do you have a new project?
I need to get back on that. I need to. The thing is, we had quite a bit of energy going into that. There was some issues that are my fault that completely led us sideways on that project, and then AI blew up, and I've been trying to get my bearings ever since. And then we did try the citation checker. At some point, the tech wasn't ready for it. I suspect it might be ready for it now. So I was thinking the other day that I need to go.
My project failed also. For example, I worked on what's called IPR. It's supposed to check bone density or whatever algorithm. So we have a bunch of PhD researchers that I work with, and it's supposed to check based on images, bone density. And ideally, if you open, if a radiologist opens up in PACS, opens up an image, whether it's MRI or whatever, it can compare against previous images and tell you the bone density. If you have bone density, and that's just one example, but that was that failed also. And I'm done. Thank you. Hey, Gator, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for being patient. Alex, we're going to move on just briefly here. Your 3D printed gun story out of California. Now, I just attached this space from the X account gun policy. A bill has been filed in California that would ban the sale and transfer of 3D printers unless they're listed on a state roster certifying that they block guns from being printed and makes it illegal to disable or uninstall the blocking technology. The bill would require that the firearm blueprint detection algorithm have the ability to be regularly updated, and the state can mandate specific updates if it thinks they're substantially better at detecting guns. Now, Alex, this is part of the stuff that we sort of said is missing from the Washington state bills, because
thank God
we would say that
California
these
being
things,
specific then. Huh.
Yeah, the bill says that if a 3D printer makers use software to block guns from being printed, then the printer has to only accept jobs from the maker's software. The bill would
in fact, the 3D printer has to program the matter that it emits to henceforth prevent anything from being launched by it in any way, shape, or form. For example, if you print a spoon, you can't use it to throw out little paper balls.
You can't make it. You can't make a spoon catapult, is what you're saying.
That's right. You can make a spoon, but if that spoon was to be used as a catapult, it has to be intelligent enough to break itself before it catapults anything. All right. I don't. The
bill would make it a misdemeanor.
Fighting inside of me. One just wants to scream, okay, which I need to suppress. The other animal just needs everybody to remember. Forget the 3D part of this. Imagine this is a paper printer. Okay, the analogy is precise. There is no difference. It's the government is saying, and this is like the government is saying, and the analogy is really so close that it's not really an analogy. It's actually like a direct transfer. Unless we can see what you are printing, and you're not printing the thing that we object to, you cannot have a 3D a printer. You're not allowed one unless it's on a government mandated list that certifies that printer, that inkjet printer, right, that normal paper, traditional paper printer, does not produce content of a certain category, not a certain like set of words. That content is not, for example, promoting gun violence or whatever. Okay, unless you can certify that your printer does not do that, you cannot sell it, you cannot transfer it, and it is illegal, and you are a criminal should you do that. This is what we're talking about. This is how fucking retarded this whole thing is. I don't know, Gator. I don't know, man.
The bill would make it a misdemeanor to knowingly disable, deactivate, uninstall, or otherwise circumvent any firearm blocking technology installed in a three-dimensional printer with the intent to manufacture firearms. Now, if that's the legal language, I would say, well, I wasn't intending to disable it in order to manufacture firearms. I disabled it just because I was curious if I could do it, and then I decided to manufacture firearms. The two things are completely disconnected.
To turn it on again, yeah.
Two things are completely disconnected.
Fucking retarded. The whole well, unfortunately, that I think you'd have a hard time proving that in court. But I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know why. I mean, look. It's devious. It's deviously intelligent in a way, right? Because again, the principle is as stupid as saying you cannot sell a category of thing until you prove that the category of thing cannot do the particular thing that we don't like it doing. Okay, that is what this comes down to. Because manufacturing a weapon is still legal in the U.S. They just don't want you manufacturing it that way because apparently it's too easy or something. But hey, let's destroy the entire category of technology because we don't like thing that is currently legal.
Yeah.
And will continue to be legal, by the way, right? If you're like I don't know, if you can smith the metal, you can still make a gun. It's you're allowed to, but apparently they object to the way in which you do it. Fine, the way is legal, the result is legal, but using the way to cause the result is illegal, right? That that's what we're talking about here. Yeah, but the devious part is that while this is like obviously generically stupid thing if explained in plain terms, people hear 3D printer and their eyes glaze over and they don't realize what's happening, right? Because once you establish the case law there, well, then you can keep use the metaphor elsewhere. But unfortunately, because 3D printers are a niche thing, they're able to color the issue however they like.
Now, since I'm sure that you've been reading about this stuff a little bit more closely than I have, did you see anything going on that made this become a
Mangione? This is a Mangione thing.
Okay. And is there a consortium of some kind or a group of rent-seeking activists?
I'm sure someone's pushing it, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay.
It's probably honestly, it's probably being taken up by some kind of anti-gun activist class. I have no information of this, right? I'm just wild ass guess. I assume that the people who would be pushing something like this, and because the 3D printing industry is A, tiny, and B, disorganized, there is no coordinated push against this. There is one YouTube channel that does a decent job, even though I have to say I don't like the YouTuber himself. He's a little bit of a clown. It's okay. I'm putting it behind me because he is doing very good work on this. The channel is called Loyal Moses. Don't ask me why. But he has a lot of very good coverage on specifically the legal aspects of 3D printing laws that are passing. And again, it's a little bit dramatic in how he covers it, but he does cover the information correctly. He's up to date. He's current. And that is how a lot of the information comes to me. And he knows his 3D printers. That's important. He doesn't, I don't know how up to date he's on the guns, but he definitely knows the 3D printer side. And actually it's fascinating, right? Because you need to understand three different things in order to speak authoritatively on this. You need to understand guns, you need to understand 3D printers, and you need to understand the law. Which, if you think about it, it's not everybody who has this set of skills, right? So if you for example, I'm not super into firearms, so I don't I couldn't really walk you through the anatomy of one. In some sense, I'm kind of having to guess a little bit when I'm saying oh, you can't print this or you can't print that or whatever. But it's again, it's another way in which this whole thing is becoming exotified, when the core issue is that literally they're saying there's a thing you can do. Okay, nobody's banning you from making a gun. There's a technology you can use, a 3D printer, which is totally legal to use. What we're banning is using the legal technology to do the legal thing, because it's too easy and we don't like it.
Well, we'll see if it stops with California now, or if there's going to be more states popping up. But it seems like California is the most.
Didn't I say last time around that there was going to be more?
You did.
Didn't
Alex.
I say it?
You did. You did.
Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to stop. I think this pattern is telling. We saw it show up in New York and Washington State, and these two are not random states. They're sort of bellwether liberal.
I'm going to have to push you to be more specific in your next prediction. You can't just say there's going to be more. I'm going to need the next state that is going to come up.
State.
What is the fourth state that's going to propose this? Colorado? Okay. All right.
Colorado. Yeah, I'm just going to bite the bullet. I'm not going to even fight you on your unreasonable demand. I'm just going to take
If you get that, I'm going to give you a lot of credit there. Okay. So even if you're winging it right now, you still get credit for it. I just want to make sure that,
Let me check if it hasn't happened already.
If we turn this into a cashy sort of bet here, we don't want it to be, or Cauchy or whatever. we don't want it to be somewhere it'll happen. It's like, no. Let's come on.
There you go. No. 19 minutes tweet. Colorado law could force surveillance for 3D printers to prevent use of making gun parts to prosecute new bans.
Congratulations there.
Expanding firearms laws to regulate digital files.
There you go. Congratulations, Alex.
I was so ahead of my time. It happened in the past.
All right. Okay. Well, I think that's a good place to close to round this out. We'll actually, hit our normal-ish target for time today. Of course, there's still plenty of things left on the drawing room floor to give you a highlight of some of the stuff that I still had on the stack. We had some topics about government ID checking online because Discord is rolling out an ID check requirement to be able to use their servers in order to have, I guess, content moderation be better on their platform. And the next article, in conjunction with the fact that there's more ID checks going on, is that one of the largest verifiers of IDs had a breach, and 1 billion of their records that they were verifying were exposed. So the checkers that do the 3D checks were exposed, and that the chancellor from Germany, the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, is calling for an end to widespread anonymity on the internet. So those were the three topics in the internet ID
Sounds
sector
like a Dax, Jordan Peterson acolyte.
that we were gonna call.
Probably an
Can I interject 1 second?
I don't know, Paul. Can you? Go ahead.
I just want to say, before I hang up and Merry Christmas, I just want to let you guys know that I enjoy you guys conversing. You guys are I love listening to you guys. Please keep going.
Thank you,
Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
We appreciate your contributions too.
Another item on the cutting room floor is ex-office raided in France over a Grok probe. That was a couple weeks old. It's been on the cutting room floor for several weeks. So, it's not, wasn't this week that it happened. It might have been 2 weeks ago. And I'll just read the top of that line there. French law enforcement authorities today raided X's Paris office and summoned Elon Musk for questioning. As part of an investigation into illegal content, the Paris Public Prosecutor's Office said the year-long probe was recently expanded because the Grok chatbot was disseminating Holocaust denial claims and sexually explicit deepfakes. So that there was that article on the cutting room floor.
No, definitely. Elon Musk should totally become a social media executive who goes to France for questioning, or any reason whatsoever. If the Telegram founders have any, any samples.
Here's a piece of news on the cutting room floor this week. The Pentagon used Anthropic's Claude in Maduro Venezuela raid, according to the Wall Street Journal. Anthropic's artificial intelligence tool Claude was used in the U.S. military's operation to capture former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, highlighting how AI models are gaining traction in the Pentagon, according to people familiar with the matter. The mission to capture Maduro and his wife included bombing several cities in Caracas last month. Anthropic's usage guidelines prohibit Claude from being used to facilitate violence, develop weapons, or conduct surveillance. Quote, "We cannot comment on whether Claude or any other AI model was used for any specific operation, classified or otherwise," said an Anthropic spokesperson. Any use of Claude, whether in private sector or across government, is required to comply with our usage policies, which govern how Claude can be deployed. We work closely with our partners to ensure compliance. The Defense Department declined to comment. So that's on the cutting room floor. It goes on. So there's plenty more on the cutting room floor, but I wanted to give you the highlights of what we would have covered.
So let me give you a corollary to that story.
Okay.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is reportedly, quote unquote, close to cutting business ties with Anthropic and designating the firm a supply chain risk, a penalty typically reserved for foreign adversaries, a senior Pentagon official told Axios.
Okay.
There you go.
Do you have any sentiment into why it would be? Or,
well, I mean, some moron somewhere, right, sold a piece of software that says you can't use it to kill people and make weapons to the Department of War. And then, hilarity ensues, I guess. They're like, the one side is like, what? I can't believe you used our stuff to kill people. And they're like, do you know who we are? I think you're a supply chain risk, to be completely honest with you. It's like, I don't know. None of this is unpredictable. I mean, okay, kudos to Anthropic, honestly, for standing up for their principles. Agree, disagree, whatever. They seem to have them, and that's something that should be praised in all this. But I don't know how the hell they didn't sort of foresee that perhaps the Department of War might use their artificial intelligence for more than human resources management. I don't know how this did not come up earlier.
Well, that's stuff we'll probably hopefully capture next week and the weeks to come, because those are on the cutting room floor for today's episode. Alex, as we close out, do you have any final thoughts on the day? Any thoughts?
Yeah,
on
I mean, we should talk about it around just like for 1 second, right. Which is to say, if it doesn't, my sources, which who themselves have no information that is non-public, appear to say that if it doesn't happen tonight, it won't happen for a while. So tonight is kind of like a hot probability zone.
And what is the significance of tonight in this?
Tonight is a night where there is no moon in the region, which the U.S. military tends to prefer. And that kind of dark night sort of time space is going to end tonight, and then we'll start again in March. So either it'll happen tonight or not for a while. Later in March, that is.
So plan your attacks
a month in the future.
For specific moon trajectories.
Yeah, it basically makes it harder to defend against the kind of weapons that the military tend to use if the night is dark, and they seem to prefer it. Highly specific, of course, and I'm sure if they're gonna bring out their what is it, scopolamine spraying weapons, I guess maybe that won't matter so much. But other than that,
all right. Well, in general, I'm hoping that there isn't some sort of large scale war. But if it
before you go to bed, I just want to thank you both.
Thank you,
Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Well, not wait. Hold on. Not just like a generic thank you, but like a genuine thank you. Like you both inspire me. Like I'm trying to work with AI programs. I read a lot of books, and when I listen to you guys, you make me think like I should learn more, and be smarter. Like you inspire me. Like I'm saying it's a thank you. Like, hey, thanks for. I obviously like. I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but like it's like it's a thank you, like, hey, heartfelt. You guys are good people.
I trusted the heartfelt sentiment. It has come through, Paul. Thank you very much. I'm not the best at accepting compliments, other than to smile and say thank you. But it's appreciated. Your sentiments are appreciated. But I'm not necessarily a perfect person to emulate. Let's get a poll going to see how many people actually respect us or hate us if I think that we're garbage.
Yeah.
But okay. Hear me out. Hear me out.
You're not getting
I think people are
value out of this. You're underperforming here. Come on.
Well, hear me out. People are bored. I think people are bored with like normal shit. Like people are bored with like normal information, like whether it's CNN or Fox News or whatever, your fill in the blank social media, whether like people are just bored. And I'm just saying, you guys have been so incredibly thought stimulating. I think you guys have a lot of potential. I think this show will blow up. I think you guys, if you keep doing it, like you'll get thousands, if not millions of people eventually. Because I know Alex Marinos, and I know you both. You're way smarter than I want to be like you. Like you inspire me, and that's how it should be. And I'm gonna shut up now, and I'm gonna go to bed.
All right, Paul, you just sleep well, sir. All right, Alex, we're inspirations, and that's I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Hopefully, I inspire people to do good and silly things.
Try to somehow stay with the emotion gator. Stay with it.
All right.
Thank you, Paul, for making us.
Thank you, Paul. All right.
Thank you for being an inspiration.
All right, sir. Alex, I hope you have a wonderfully dumb week this week. Let's hope it stays in the manageable side.
All right. Have a good one, everybody.
All right. Bye. Take care, everyone.